it so I can see you guys.
Okay, Pat, you're good to go.
Okay, great. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Quality of Life meeting. I'm Pat Moore, the chair. Mariama is the co-chair. Mariama James. I think she'll be here soon. And we are going to get started because Officer Nelson, I just lost him. Where did Officer Nelson go? Where did Brian go? Listen. I'm not hearing it.
I'm taking a look. Hold on. He's still on. He just needs to. He may be doing some police stuff, and he'll unmute once he's available.
Okay, so if he's not
But
available,
yeah,
we
I'll just,
have.
Officer Nelson, whenever I'll tell you what, let me shoot him a text and
Because we're going to start with Mr. Nelson just so we can get a recap on what's going on in the community, and you all can ask questions if you have, like Mitch has a question, and you can ask questions about what's going on. Everybody knows though that the first precinct. Somebody needs to mute. Everybody knows that the first precinct has the community council meetings, and this next meeting is going to be virtual. They had gone back to live meetings, but because of I'm sure, the outbreak of the next meeting on Thursday, January 27th, from 6 to 7 is the next meeting, and we'll send out the information, and it also will be in Community Board One's newsletter. But in the meantime, do we have Officer Nelson back?
Hey, Pat,
I believe he's back.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Happy New Year, everybody.
Anywhere. I saw you a little while. Oh, there you are. There you are. So welcome. Thanks as always for coming.
Oh, my pleasure.
And so I'm just gonna, first of all, do you have anything that you'd like to tell us that's going on in the community?
Yeah, I'll get a few things off. We do have some meetings coming up. I heard you talk about the community council meeting, which will be the 27th, next Thursday, 6 p.m. I did send out an email today with the link for Zoom. And we're also going to post it on Twitter and Facebook, and Lucian, I'll tag CB1 in it, and then you can, repost it to whoever you guys, feels appropriate in regards to that. We do have 2 Build the Block meetings coming up for below Canal Street. So Sector Charlie is going to be on February 3rd at 6 p.m. and Sector Boy is going to be February 10th at 6 p.m. Both of those meetings will also be Zoom and will also be posted on social media in the week leading up to the actual meeting. So you'll have ample time to, figure out if you can make that meeting. Other than that, trying to think, I don't think, we just have normal stuff. I'll just go real fast into crime stats. We are right now a little bit for the year to date. We are above, we're about 15 to 16% positive as opposed to last year's. But the driving force of that, luckily, is only grand larcenies and shoplifting. And like I said at the CB1 meeting yesterday, most of that is in Soho, so it's really not affecting anything below Canal Street. So for you guys, that's great. For us in Soho, not so great. But luckily, it's we've seen a decrease in the Target thefts, in the Dwayne Reed thefts. They're still happening, and they're still happening more than they should. But it did calm down a little bit. We have been making some pretty good arrests on the repeat offenders. So the only thing that we are up in is the grand larcenies. We are 10 versus 9 in burglaries, but compared to where we were last year with the burglaries, like I said, we're going to take that as a win for us because of the we're only a +1 right now. So for us that's very good. So we'll take that as a a moral victory.
Great. All right. So,
in regards to, I heard Mitch talking before about the subway with the masks.
Yes, thank you.
We can't enforce it. So we can ask, but we can't enforce it because there's no actual law on the books that
Right.
that's what I thought. Yeah.
action. So
Okay, so how about, so Officer Nelson, I understand that I don't want anybody going to jail for that, but I'm talking about a couple of hours ago, three officers that happened were riding my train, and two people just like right next to them, standing out like a sore thumb with no mask. Not even a hey guy, can you please put your mask on? It was like it didn't. It's like zero. And so when I say you, I don't mean you personally. When you
No,
see that, it gives everybody the impression that anybody can do what they want. And if you try to ask somebody to put a mask on, then you're looking for a fight.
No, you're 100% correct. Unfortunately, that's going to be from officer to officer. It's
Right, I know.
we
But
don't
I
have
see
any,
that.
we haven't
I'm
gotten
sorry.
any. Let's just put it this way: with the new administration, we haven't received new guidance yet on how they want us to handle certain things. So we're just going with how our department told us to handle things, and we are not in the mask enforcement business,
Right.
according our administration. So
Well, all right.
if somebody approaches us on it and asks us, we can ask them, but we don't have any legal authority to mandate it.
No, I know that, but if there's if it's almost like years ago when you'd have your feet on the seat and a cop would get on the train. When I say, like I said, you in general, the person would, even if they didn't care, they would just take their feet off for those couple of seconds that the cop was in the same car, just out of respect, and then maybe they'd lie down on it after, but now it's like it's
Okay, but
zero.
we're not years ago, Mitch,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
well, yeah, I agree with you, and I wish that respect still happened, but unfortunately, it's just not there right
I
now.
mean, there's also a lot of, like I said, I'm seeing because I'm on the trains all the time, unfortunately, because of, what I have to do. And, in Giant Station, whether it's 149th and the Grand Concourse, or it's like Times Square, there'll be 6 cops just like huddled together instead of like spreading out, like at least, in groups of 2, like when there's like 10 different entrances, and half of them are not masked and half of them are on their cell phones. And I'm
Yeah.
just, it's not, I'm not directing it to you, but, it's
Right.
something.
No, I know. It is something, that we can every now and again we get asked for, opinions or community feedback. It is stuff that I give, that I do give out when I'm asked, from headquarters or the patrol bureau. You getting any community feedback? What are the complaints? I will relay this stuff.
I know you're in a tough spot. You're between a rock and a hard place.
It's for me personally. I am in a rock and a hard place because then it's that I'm kind of going against people that I work with, so to speak, versus
I know.
thing.
Right.
It is, rock and a hard space. I try to do the right thing as much as I can. Me personally, if somebody approached me and said, can you handle that for me? I would. I'm not so sure these days if every
Right.
person.
I didn't want to bother the cop, and put him in a situation, so I just moved to a different section of the car, because you never know who has an immune compromised family member, like so.
Right.
I just, but anyway, I was just wanted to know.
Like what I tell people is, right, exactly. You try to do the right thing, and if we're, until our whatever you want, if elected officials or city hall, until they get, the actual guidance of what they want,
Right.
We'll do whatever, if there's a law, we can enforce it. If there's a mandate given by the mayor, we can then use that as
I thought there was a mandate that on.
backup.
But I
No.
thought there was a mandate, and in fact,
But
even I'm sorry.
All right, we
it's
got to
not
move
something
on,
that
Mitch.
we enforce, though. The transit authority can enforce their workers. They can enforce, they can put signs up, but there's no physical, like it won't hold up in court. So there's
Yeah, that's
nothing
what I thought. Yeah, All right, we got to move on, Mitch. Any other question? Mitch,
I'm sorry.
another question you have?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for answering that one. I think I see Diane Stein. Do you have your hand up?
Hi. Yeah, I don't know. I think this may not, I don't know if this would be your area of the officer's area of, but between the crime on the subway and the thing is bicycles. The other day, one of my coworkers, Jean Grillo, was standing on the sidewalk.
Oh, I know.
The corner of Varick and Houston, and somebody on an e-bike. If she said if she moved like an inch, she would have been. Could have been dead.
Right. So we do have some. The e-bikes are anything motorized without a license plate or a VIN number attached. these scooters. So e-bikes are legal, but they have to fit it, like they have to fit with the criteria. The other day we actually posted on Twitter a flyer of everything that's legal and not legal, to try to educate the public a little better on it, because I know it's very confusing. It's confusing to us because they keep changing what's considered an e-scooter, an e-bike, an you know.
But I thought that unless you were under the age of 13,
You didn't say sidewalk,
kind
and
of bicycle.
sidewalk is illegal.
on the sidewalk.
Yes, and then about 2 or 3 years ago, criminal courts stopped enforcing that summons. That it was a criminal court summons that you would write to the person riding on the sidewalk, and they basically made a declaration that criminal court is no longer enforcing that. So again, how are we going to write a summons that we know is not going to be enforced? We're just opening ourselves up to liability. Doesn't make it right for the person, and we do go out there and we still do. Like I know personally, the first precinct, we do ride bicycles. My captain, my commanding officer, he is so like traffic driven, and he's so in tune to that. He's out there all the time trying to educate the public, and also deal with infractions that are like very egregious. And one of his pet peeves is bicycles and these motorized bikes on the sidewalks, and he does address it. I know it's never in the place where it happened to you, but I can promise you that we are out there, and I can definitely give you statistics of what we've done enforcement wise over like the last 28 days or 56 days. That when I can definitely give that to Pat, to distribute to you guys if that's something you're interested in.
If you are able to come next month, can we have a discussion about bicycles, please?
Absolutely.
And
I can actually see, I can get some feedback and see if there's like something that we can do, and I'll find out what exactly we can enforce and not enforce anymore. Unfortunately, I'm not out in the everyday world as far as enforcement anymore. This is more my my area of expertise nowadays.
right.
So I'll talk to the traffic guys. I'll talk to the the guys that are actively pursuing these types of infractions, and I can have an answer for you next time we meet.
Because it's a big peeve in our community. Betty
No,
is on.
Yeah.
And Officer Nelson, can I just chime in? You had said that they stopped giving criminal complaint, like summons. I don't think anybody wants, at least I don't want them to have a criminal summons for it, but that doesn't mean there shouldn't be some enforcement, like a little civil penalty to the business, because while you said that there's some enforcement, I'm out all the time on the street at all hours of the day and night sometimes. I've seen zero enforcement, and especially in the evening and night, there's anarchy with the motorized delivery vehicles every which way. So you have to look on all four corners before you cross. So
absolutely.
What about bicycles in general? I mean, I love cyclists, but honestly, I swear to God, I've almost been run over by cyclists numerous times. I mean, literally, if I end up dead, it's because a cyclist, this happens constantly and whether it's motorized or non-motorized, it's a huge, huge issue. And I see no enforcement at all whatsoever. And
well, you know what, everybody, I see Councilman Marte is on. And so we're going to talk to him next, and maybe we can, this is a big pet peeve in our community. So maybe we can have a discussion.
Listen, I'll bring this situation up to Captain Smith tomorrow, and see if I can get a quick response for you guys. And Pat, I'll email it to you, and then we can definitely.
Thank you. Also, you said that you had written, there was a list of rules and regulations. Can you send that to Lucian so we can put it in the newsletter?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. We need to move on, guys. So we'll continue our discussion about bikes because it does make us all crazy. And Elizabeth, you're right. Most of us have almost gotten creamed by a bike. Does anybody else have a question? Officer Nelson?
Pat, you've got one question from Marion Braverman.
Can we get Miriam?
The public. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Marianne, you can unmute yourself.
Taking my hand down, but I'll just say quickly, I am a bike rider, and I learned that when you are passing a bike or a person or anyone, just like skiers do, you open your mouth and you let them know you're there, passing on the left, which is the way you're supposed to pass. And then that person will not be startled when you go by. It is absolutely an education issue. We are always going to have bikes and we're always going to have pedestrians and we'll have bikes going too fast. But if those bike riders know that they are supposed to see anyone near them and speak to them, they're not going to go flying by. And that is the real offense when people do that. So
Not
I
stopping
wish.
at red lights. They're not obeying the rules.
I know, but
You know,
That's the issue.
it's still a matter of education and for them to see people.
but everybody's not like you.
Okay, but we're going to continue the
Well,
bike conversation.
okay.
It's an ongoing conversation.
It is.
Did you
I mean,
have a
look,
question?
I go through red lights when there's nothing there. And believe me, I only go if there's nothing there.
Right.
So bike riders are going to do that. And just
Right.
trying to give them tickets for that is not going to get to the base level of, I'm a human being passing by. I should know that you're there. I should see that you're there. And I should alert you.
Right.
Businesses who use bike riders, the slam should be on them to educate their people.
Sorry,
And
but
That's
are
what
you
I'll
a
say.
vehicle or are you a pedestrian when you ride a bike? If you're a vehicle, which you are, you need to stop at a red light like cars do, okay? Cars are not allowed to go through red lights, even if there's nobody crossing the road.
I know I should. I'm telling you, I'm just speaking truth.
Pedestrians or vehicles.
Okay,
and
now
they
listen,
are vehicles.
Miriam, all that. First of all, we're going to continue the bike conversation. It goes on in Betty's committee all the time. It is a big deal. We all are upset. We've all almost been hit. I have said, and many of us have said, the city needs to have a program where they educate the bike riders. So again, we have our
Stupid,
member
Pat.
with us,
You give
Mitch.
one motorized delivery person a fine, not a criminal fine, and the word will get out.
I heard you. So let's just drop the conversation on the bikes now and we'll get back to it, okay? So anybody else have a question for Officer Nelson? Because he is between two demonstrations that he's working and he took his time out to come and answer questions. Anybody else have a question?
Nope, just want to thank him for being here.
As always, Brian, we thank you. Be safe out there, all right? And we'll continue again. If you're able to come next month, we would love it. And let's dedicate next month to bike talk.
And I'm gonna get all the bike literature that we have, and I'll send it to Lucian so you guys can distribute it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Be safe.
All right, guys. Take care. Good seeing you. Happy New
See you
Year.
at the community council meeting.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, so we're going to go on with DDC is here to talk about dismantling of the Manhattan Detention Complex. Lucian, let us, before we do that, I'm sorry, before we do that, first of all, we have our new council member here. Hi, Chris. Councilmember Marte's here. Would you like to say hi? And we're really, thank you for coming. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, hey Pat. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. I've been really involved with figuring out what we're going to do at the Chinatown jail. So kind of going to continue to be on these meetings and give as much criticism and advice as possible to the city. But thank you for everything that you're doing. And thank you for everyone that's on today and all the work you do on the community board.
And aside from that, you heard how hot everybody gets over the bicycle issue. So it's something for you to also think about putting on your agenda of tasks to be, taken on. But it's a big issue. We're constantly complaining about the bike. So, all right, if you have anything else you want to tell us?
I heard it loud and clear, the bike.
Okay,
So.
Great. So then I'll start the conversation about the detention and chime in, with any questions or anything you want to say. So, hi, who's here from DDC? Lucian?
Can you hear me?
Lots of people have just been moved over, so they're just getting used to their ability to unmute themselves. So all the DDC people, check to see. You should be able to unmute yourselves at will now.
And then just introduce yourselves.
Okay, I'll go first. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Let me know if you just see my mouth moving and no sound. Okay.
We hear you. Thank you.
I will, I will be kicking off the presentation tonight, kind of hosting through the Q&A. I am a member of the project management consulting group that's working closely with DDC on this project.
Just introduce yourself, please.
Anyone else from DDC want to introduce themselves?
Is that
I
Lauren?
don't think you said your name.
You didn't say your name.
I thought I did, but perhaps I just said it quickly. Sorry. My name is Lauren Messier. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
Who else is here?
This is Jeff Margolis from DDC.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, this is Xiaoming Zhao, Outreach Coordinator from DDC.
Hi, Shaman. How are you? Who else have we got?
Hi, this is Mercy Wong, also from DDC.
Hey, Mercy. Anybody else in your? No?
Jeff, introduce yourself and then let me know if I'm missing anybody who's not in the panelist section from your team.
I think we have everyone. I'm just looking for our design build team, Gramercy, I see. So they should be all set.
So we're just missing Rich Peterson. He's in the attendees. He needs to be moved to a panelist. My name is Joseph Castaldo, Vice President of the Gramercy Group.
Hey, Joseph. Hi.
Solution
All right.
should be it. We could, and Pat, we can probably continue once Rich is let into the speakers.
Okay, so we're missing Rich then. Good.
And I just got a message from Anil Alay. He is showing up, I think, in the panelists, but yes, but he's unable to unmute himself. Can we just confirm on the community board's end?
I'm able to unmute. Hello, everyone.
This is Rich Peterson.
I'm able to unmute.
Okay, hi, Anil.
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm the project manager for the Bar-Based Steel project.
Great. All right. So who wants to kick it off?
Can we also, sorry, confirming one more person. Anna Killian, have you been able to unmute yourself? You texted me in the background a minute ago that you could not.
Hi, Anna. Okay. Well, can we kick it off while Anna's getting herself unmuted?
We have one more in the attendee list, Joanna Parziali from the Gramercy Group. Could someone let her into the panelists?
That's Joanna. Hey, Joanna.
Hi, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who is presenting? Or would you like me to present the slides?
I will be presenting the introduction,
Okay.
over some engagement slides, and then handing off to Richard Peterson, who will be presenting for the design build team.
Do you want me to power the slideshow from my computer?
I can power it up. I will be sharing my screen in a moment.
Okay.
Good evening. I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. I'm Joanna Parziali, the President and CEO of Gramercy Group. Welcome, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
All right, let me share my screen. Give me 1 second. Pull up the PowerPoint. Slideshow. Okay, just confirming everyone. See my screen okay?
Yes, we can. I can anyway.
All right. Great. Thank you so much for confirming that. So as you just saw, we have a big team here tonight, and that's reflective of enthusiasm for coming tonight. Thank you for hosting us. We are excited to share updates on the Dismantle project and keep the community board informed of what's going on with this program. So our agenda will do, well, we just did some introductions. Welcome everyone, the meeting purpose. We are here tonight, we're going to give you an overview of the schedule, where we're at and where we're going, what the look ahead looks like. We'll touch base on community engagement, what we've been doing so far, some of the upcoming events. We have our new Manhattan CCL, Community Construction Liaison, who will be introducing to all of you. And then the focus of this meeting tonight will be on updates about the Dismantle project for the existing facility. You'll notice those of you who were attending our presentations that we were giving to the community board at the end of December, that we're not focusing tonight on the Sally Port in response to feedback that we got from the community board and from PDC at the end of December during that presentation. We are currently revising the design of that, and we are going to come back to the CB1 Land Use Committee in early February, February 7th. We showed that on some later slides to re-present the update on that part of the project. So stay tuned for that. And then we also will touch on the broad timeline of the artwork removal project, but we're not going to re-present that same content that we did present to the full community board earlier. So tonight is focusing on the Dismantle project, and then we will open it up to all of you for questions. If I can change the slides. Okay, so project schedule. We are here at the beginning of 2022. The Dismantle design build team, who is here with us tonight, received their notice to proceed at the end of December. And they will also be handling the interim Sallyport construction, which is slated to begin in the beginning of February, and that will go from February to July of 2022. As I mentioned, we will be back to the community board to present design updates on that part of the project. The interim Sallyport will stay in place throughout facility design and construction until substantial completion in 2027, at which point that will also be taken down. The design build team that is on board now for Dismantle and Sallyport construction is different than the design build team who will be designing and building the new facility. So for that team, the RFQ was released in this past September, and we released the facility request for proposals to the short list of teams at the end of December of this past year. We expect to be giving the selected design build team for that part of the project their notice to proceed in the first quarter of 2023. The city has committed to closing Rikers by 2027, and so the schedule that you're seeing here is reflective of that commitment. These are the steps that are in place, and this is what we need to do in order to meet that commitment. Keep losing my mouse. Again, just to touch on this, we did present the artwork removal and salvage and storage process to the full community board at the end of December. But as a reminder, the Public Design Commission is currently reviewing our proposal for the artworks to be removed, salvaged, and stored. That is ongoing. The actual removal process will be beginning, as the design builder is kicking off as part of the dismantle process and ongoing until the spring. What I want to make sure is very clear to everyone and to the community is that this is not the presentation that we gave at the end of December. That's not the end of community engagement on this topic. New art will be commissioned and decisions will be made around what we're doing with the artwork that's been put into storage, what's going to be replaced in the new facility or might be going elsewhere. The community is going to be involved in that conversation as part of the Percent for Art program and as part of the PDC process. We'll be doing public engagement around all of that. So that selection process will be going on in that decision making once the new facility design and construction is underway. So that'll be part of the later phases. And then the artwork will be installed once the new facility is constructed. So for community engagement, again, we had a couple of presentations to CB1 at the end of last year. Those are shown here at the bottom of this list. This is part of ongoing engagement that we've been doing with the community over the last few years, including meetings with this community board, meetings with the neighborhood advisory committee, the joint implementation task force, and we will be continuing to do community engagement as we move forward. I just want to say we did hear loud and clear with some of the other community board meetings that we have a lot of trust building to do with this community. We are committed to active engagement with everyone. Again, we'll introduce our new community construction liaison who's been onboarded, and we know that we need to keep everyone up to speed as construction commences. There's going to be a lot going on, and we are committed to keeping you notified and abreast of all developments on this project. So in that light, upcoming community meetings, again, we will be back to present the revised design for the Sallyport on February 7th with the Land Use Committee. We are also in the process of convening a meeting with key stakeholders in Chinatown, some folks who are leaders in the community but don't often attend these community board sessions. So making sure that we are extending our outreach as much as possible. We will also continue to do quarterly NAC meetings. We are looking to schedule our next one again for towards the end of this month. We will keep you all posted on that. We're working on it. And then community board presentations will be ongoing through the life of this program. There are a number of resources available to the community during construction. We have a newly revamped website, which we hope is a bit more user-friendly and easy for everyone to find the information that they're looking for on that. So we've launched the new website. We have, again, our community construction liaison here tonight with a designated phone number where you can contact her. We will be issuing quarterly newsletters with updates weekly look-aheads, and 72-hour advisories for any impactful construction activities in your neighborhood. The CCL office location is going to be at 110 Walker Street. We have secured the site and are in the process of fitting that space out. It should be ready and active in early February. This is just a quick glance at the new BBJ website and a short list of some of the information that everyone can find there, including community engagement updates. We do post all of the NAC presentations that we give, and those will be hosted online on the website. You'll also be able to find all the CCL contact information and timely construction updates. This is a sample of the 72-hour advisories that we'll be issuing. They'll come out in multiple languages. They'll be translated into Chinese. And again, we are committed to doing those 72 hours in advance of any impactful activities. Also, we do send them out electronically to everyone on the neighborhood notification list. So if you're not on that list, and you should be, please email Pauline Chan, our Manhattan CCL. This is a picture of her here. She was out in the neighborhood with a couple members of our outreach team the other week, passing out her information card, some of the advisories that we were getting out, and introducing herself to local businesses and neighbors, and starting to put a face to this program. So again, she's going to have a storefront. It'll be ready in the beginning of February, and she's there. If you have any questions for the program, please email her, call her, do the reach out. She'll be getting that back to our team, and we will respond as quickly as we can. And with that, I'm going to turn this over now to Rich for the Dismantle project updates.
Hi, everybody. How are you? My name is Rich Peterson. I am the construction manager for Gramercy Group, the design build for this project. Before I get started, I'd like to introduce Joanna Parziali, President and CEO, just to give a quick introduction to our company.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Joanna Parziali. I'm the President and CEO of Gramercy Group. I want to welcome everybody today. We are the contractor who has been awarded the dismantlement of the Manhattan Detention Center. Gramercy has been in business for over 20 years. We specialize in environmental dismantlement and heavy civil projects throughout Manhattan and the tri-state area. Tonight from my team, you just met Richard Peterson. He's put together a presentation which will give you a better understanding on how the dismantling process will work. He has been involved in the project through all the preliminary stages, so he is happy to answer any questions after the presentation. At this time, I'd like Richard to proceed with the presentation. And thank you again, everybody, for their time tonight.
Okay, everybody. So today I'm going to go over the scheduled milestones for the project. I'm going to go over our approach and concept. I will talk about our dust, traffic, noise, and vibration mitigation, and go over our preliminary dismantlement simulation, which will give you a bit of a visual on how we're going to take the buildings down. Next slide. Right now, this month, we are on site. We are performing probes to determine structural conditions within the building, look at different beam connections in order to prepare our DOB filing set for the dismantlement. Starting next month, we are going to be putting up our construction fence. We'll be beginning Sally Port construction and doing the artwork removal and storage. Within around May, you're going to start seeing the installation of scaffolding on the buildings with a completion date for the dismantlement summer next year. Here's a bird's eye view. As you can see on the box on the left side of your screen, you have the north and south tower, which are the buildings to be dismantled. And in the center of your screen, you have an L-shaped shaded blue section. That is the location of the new Sally Port on Center Street. Up next, this is our site layout as it currently stands. As you can see on the bottom right corner in the lime green, that is the outline of the new Sally Port. Surrounding that is a black fence to surround the new construction in order to provide a construction barrier. Pedestrians will be routed through the parking lane behind concrete jersey barriers during this construction phase for approximately 6 months. And it will be an ADA accessible path. Moving north on Center Street, you will have a plywood construction fence that'll be installed where the red dotted line is. And in the blue hatching, you'll have an urban shed style sidewalk bridge. This will provide with overhead protection. It'll have no cross bracing, and it'll be well lit. It'll provide an open area for pedestrians to travel back and forth on Center Street without feeling restricted. On Baxter Street, oops, sorry. Go back one slide, please. On Baxter Street, the sidewalk and parking lane will be closed to establish a safety influence limit for the dismantlement, and a sidewalk shed will be provided north of that fencing in order to provide a overhead protection for the entrance to 96 Baxter Street. Next slide. Upon the completion of the Sally Port, shown here in blue, the sidewalk bridge will continue in front of the South Tower, allowing for dismantlement of the South Tower scaffolding to be installed. Along Baxter, the fence will also be continued southbound in order to encapsulate the South Tower. Pedestrians will be able to cross at a newly installed crosswalk at Bayard and return back at Walker Street. The trucking for this project will be brought to the site on an as-needed basis, scheduled to not have any queuing throughout the neighborhood. Employees will be encouraged to use public transportation and not allowed to park in the immediate neighboring streets in order to not impact any businesses or residents. All material staging will occur on White Street, with the exception of some materials being delivered for the new Sally Port construction. We are doing a complete HABS historical documentation of the South Tower. That is going to be going on in the next few weeks. And the number of DOC buses during this will not be affected. So you will not see any increase in the number of DOC buses crossing into the Sally Port during the dismantlement of this structures. This is a rendering of a new sidewalk shed that will be installed on Center Street. As you can see, there's no cross bracing, it's high and has well lit. Traffic. So traffic for this project is going to have two options of egress into the site. Moving northbound on Center Street, trucks will be able to enter onto White Street, where they will do their unloading or loading, be able to turn around and exit on Center Street up the canal. The second option is to come southbound on Baxter, enter on White Street, pull through the job site and exit on Center Street. During the preparation phase that's going on now, just to recap, we are going to be going after our permits through DOB and DOT and other miscellaneous agencies. We'll be working on the artwork removal and storage, working on the swing space fit out, which is the construction of the Sally Port and some make ready spaces within the courthouse. We'll be doing our environmental sampling throughout the structures, working on interior non-structural removals. Standpipes will be reconfigured to go from an active building to a dismantlement project. HABs and CPP documents are being formed. We'll be installing temporary electric throughout the buildings for the dismantlement. Sidewalk shed, fence, scaffolding, and hoists will be installed, and the vibration, noise, and dust control systems will be implemented, which we'll touch on in further detail in the next slide. Starting in May, you will start to see equipment being hoisted onto the roof of the structures for dismantlement, and some hand methods and early prepping of dismantlement will begin. Dust, noise, and vibration. So as you can see on the upper right-hand corner, you have an image of a Brock. This is an electric robot excavator that'll be utilized on the property for the dismantlement. It has no emissions as it's completely electric powered. We are going to go through the categories. Noise mitigation. We're going to minimize all truck idling. When trucks come to the site, they'll be shutting down their engines unless they are simply dropping and leaving. Acoustical absorbing materials will be placed around all noise producing areas. So the active floors of dismantlement will have a cocoon established on the scaffolding, and that cocoon will have noise attenuating blankets hanging from it. Debris, when they're loaded into the trucks, will be lowered into the trucks as opposed to dropping, which is the loud bang that you typically hear on construction sites. Vibration, we are going to cushion our items during dismantlement. What that means is there will be buildup of lighter type materials. This way, when something heavy comes down, it is not impacting the slab directly. We'll make sure we use appropriate size equipment, no small jackhammers on large concrete pieces. You want to use the right size equipment to minimize the amount of vibrations. Debris will be lowered via crane to the ground to the greatest extent feasible to minimize chute usage, and remove debris from the site in as large pieces as possible in order to minimize the on-site processing. Dust mitigation, in the lower right-hand corner, there's an image of a Buffalo dust destroyer. This device creates a fine mist of water particles throughout the air that are in size likeness to dust. What happens is the water and dust are able to commingle, and the dust can settle down to the ground immediately as opposed to wafting through the air. The debris netting will be installed around the site. You will have enclosed chutes to minimize dust coming down from the debris, and we'll have daily cleaning and street sweeping. Around the perimeter of the site, you will have dust monitoring equipment, sound monitoring equipment, and vibration monitoring equipment. This equipment will have triggers set within it so that if any vibrations are detected at a low threshold lower than the allowable threshold, we will get alerts in real time, alerting us that there is something going on that we need to address in order to bring those vibration levels back down and not let them exceed. Now I'll walk you through a simulation of the dismantlement, and I will explain the different parts that are occurring to give you a better understanding of what I just tried to explain. Up first on Center Street, we'll be installing our sidewalk shed and fencing. White Street has a Con Ed oil static line. We'll be installing protection over that and setting up the Sallyport enclosure and constructing the Sallyport. One thing not shown on this simulation, there will be traffic delineators along that corridor where the bus backs up parallel into the Sallyport to keep pedestrians and the buses in two different lanes so that there is no commingling of pedestrians and bus traffic. Chung Pak will receive roof protection over its skylights and mechanical equipment. The low-rise structures on the west and east sides of Baxter will be taken down. The artwork along White Street, which is mostly on White Street, the towers and the artwork on the bridges, will be removed, transported, and stored on Rikers Island. White Street Bridge will be removed in order to open up a staging area for the project. A crane will be installed. Type of crane and the exact location of crane are currently being through a feasibility study. The towers will be enclosed in either traditional scaffolding or a cocoon style, which is shown on each of the buildings for clarity, what they mean. The North Tower here you can see has the cocoon style, where the South Tower has a more traditional scaffold. Both will be wrapped in debris netting, sound attenuating devices, and completely enclosed. The buildings will be dismantled from a top-down fashion, working floor by floor, taking walls, floors, and columns. The North Tower will undergo a similar process. However, it has concrete precast exterior panels that will be picked and lowered via crane for removal from the site. This process will then continue floor by floor until we reach grade level. Both buildings will be...
Did the video stop?
It's still working on my screen.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it should still be playing, but let me know if anyone else if your screen's frozen and when it starts, if you'd like us to back up to a certain point, we can do that.
It just goes slowly.
So
The
both
mediation.
buildings will be...
It's going slower than your, okay, describe.
Yeah, usually when there's a lot of people on the video, it kind of has a buffering issue.
I'll turn my video
buildings will
off
be taken
now.
down simultaneously. It's not one building and the other. Both will be done at the same time. The bridges connecting the South Tower to the courthouse will be removed once the dismantlement reaches that level, and the courthouse will be patched with materials salvaged from the South Tower or put in place with a temporary partition for new bridges to connect during the new construction. Now the video seems to have frozen on my screen.
It did, and then maybe it'll go again. Now it's going again.
Yep, I agree. Once the buildings are taken down to grade level, the basement slabs will be fractured to allow for water drainage from rain and minimize ponding and any type of water issues that could occur on the site. The perimeter will be bermed, and then the site will be backfilled back to grade. You will see that there is a tunnel underneath White Street. Being that I discussed that Con Ed oil-static line a little bit earlier, that tunnel will be abandoned in place until Con Ed relocates the oil-static line. Once the site is completely backfilled back to grade, the perimeter sidewalk sheds will be removed from the site, and the site will be left flat, clean, level with a construction fence. So I apologize that the video stuttered there a little bit. Can we go to the next slide? At this point, if there's any questions and answers regarding the dismantlement, I'm happy to answer them, unless we want to circle back. I thought there was another slide that needed to be taken care of, but I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Richard. That was great. So do you want, I can try to call on participants, or Lucian, are you going to handle hands up?
Pat will manage this.
Okay, sorry.
I just wanted to tell you, I love having the video. Thank you. It was a little slow, but that really made it clear. Thank you. I personally wanted on this, Alice.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. I have many questions, and I have to say my heart is broken in this presentation to see the building, the tombs coming down after this is a building that is landmark eligible, as I'm sure you're well aware. And in 1986, when Grusin Partners did the renovation, didn't touch it on the exterior. So to see that slide with it coming down, the extraordinary waste that's involved in this demolition, it's really heartbreaking. I sort of provide this perspective because I don't think it's different than this community board at large, which, as you probably all know, are very much against the bringing down of these two buildings, and certainly accept and have always been very much, the jail has always been very much a part of our neighborhood, as well as the prison. But to see this kind of waste is just extraordinary. I did want to just state that. I think I can say that on behalf of the board, as vice chair, that we have a resolution that was not in support of this. But that said, a number of questions. So first of all, is 125 or 120 White Street a potential brownfield site? When, and how does that get defined? And I guess that would probably change things up a bit. Could you answer that?
So our contract for the dismantlement doesn't involve any soil excavation, other than some small minor excavation for utility disconnects. In terms of the brownfield, I'll turn that back to the DDC.
Alice, this is Jeff from DDC. So we're actually talking to Diana tomorrow about, we're trying to address some of those questions that you had about the soil. And I think we're going to set something up in the near future to try and answer your questions. But as Rich said, this project, this phase of the project is it's primarily dismantle, as you saw, and then they leave it at grade. So the design builder for the facility would come and excavate for the actual facility. So that any extensive soil removal will be done as part of the second part of this project.
Well, I'm not sure what the definition of extensive is, but it does seem to show in this video that you are in fact doing some excavation. If I'm not mistaken, I saw that you are in fact going underground. So I'm a little confused by that. Can you define what
you saw in the video was backfilling of the basements. We are importing clean soil that we placed on top of the slabs.
Who's taking out the soil in order to then allow for the backfill?
It is a basement void that's being backfilled.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The basement void, so the current structure is about 15 feet below grade, the basement, and we are bringing that level back up to flush with the sidewalk.
Is there excavation being done with your work by Gramercy or not?
Only for utility disconnects.
Uh-huh. Okay. Can you, I mean, I'm not sure where this comes, who I'm asking this to, and I don't know where this comes through. I mean, there's so many questions. This is, you know, vast. Is there a remedial action plan and a construction health plan that are available for the public to see yet? Is that part of your work, or I guess that's the DDC? Where is that in the picture here?
So there is, speak to the, sorry, is someone else chiming in?
I was gonna chime in, but go ahead.
Okay, no, go ahead, Anil.
So we are gonna have a site safety plan prepared by Gramercy, which is ongoing currently. We have a dismantlement plan also being prepared. Regarding your excavation question, just want to clarify, there is only one oil tank on White Street, which is being removed as part of the Dismantle project. That's the only excavation going to be occurring at the site, which is the oil tank removal.
Well, that's just a small item to throw at us, the 10,000 gallon, I think, oil tank. Yeah, well, those are sort of the questions that I'm going for here. So we
actually, Alice, if I may just to repeat the question about sorry, the site safety plan and construction management plan and traffic maintenance plan. As Anil said, those are in development, and we can come back and present those to the community as well to share those when they're ready.
I think it's critical. I think, you know, this is an immense project. This is on a par with, you know, sort of, I think if I'm not mistaken, this is probably the largest kind of demo project that Lower Manhattan has seen since the terrorist attack at 9/11. So we're really looking at some pretty major related construction of that site. So we're looking at some really major environmental stuff going on here. And we were only just after a foil able to see the environmental assessment after the probe. So we're just kind of getting up to speed, as much as your schedule shows so many community meetings that, of course, we feel very differently. That in fact, we've been very much left in the dark on a lot of this. So we're kind of catching up. So I think the community desperately needs, as soon as possible, the construction health plan, the remedial action plan, and other documents that we can review. So we are all on board, including what has just been revealed about the excavation of the 10,000 gallon diesel. Could you talk a little bit about, and I guess we're not clear on that brownfields question, which I guess we'll get clarity on soon, Jeff. So I thank you on that. And I think I'm at tomorrow's meeting, so that'll be helpful. Could you talk a little bit about asbestos and lead in the building and how that abatement is being mitigated?
So we are an asbestos contractor. We'll be self-performing the removal of the asbestos. The buildings actually have, not buildings, our contract has allowances for the removal of any that is determined. There are some known quantities that we have to deal with, which are minimal in nature, and we are currently doing probes to determine if that is the extent.
Okay, so you'll be sharing those probes before anything goes forward, obviously. So again, you'll be back with that information, I assume. Is that correct?
So I'm not sure we can share, but the DDC can answer that, but we are doing the probes.
Okay, so Jeff, I guess I'm asking you, will somebody be coming back to share with the community the toxic, the hazardous materials kind of assessment on the buildings coming down in terms of asbestos, lead, and many other things that I assume will be part of that?
Yeah, I mean, I know Lucian is very patient with our FOIL process. Some of that, again, we'll present what we can. If there's an extensive report that needs to be foiled, we will let the community board staff know, and we will make sure they get it as soon as possible. But yes, I think we've committed to coming back to provide, again, generally speaking, updated information on some of the concerns you've raised just now.
And thank you, Pat, for allowing me to ask so many questions at one go here, but why not? What is could you tell us what the archaeological review will take on? In other words, who do you have sort of on site? Is there anything that, in terms of this removal of the tank and the small amount or whatever aspect of excavation, is there some part of this that is being overseen by an archaeologist? As you know, the site has been identified as being very potentially rich in archaeological resources, potentially.
Yes, the answer is yes. Where the area of potential effect for the archaeological resource, it's mostly on White Street at the intersection of Center Street. The oil tank is on the opposite side, and based on both the geotechnical and environmental boring reports, we don't anticipate any impact of archaeological resource in that area. Very specific to a site condition in a specific area.
You may not anticipate it, but you mentioned there will be somebody who from Landmarks Preservation Commission who will be on, who's been identified to review this as things go on or not.
The preliminary report that we had done during the geotech was submitted, yes, but for the oil tank removal, based on the report, that's not needed. For the new construction, yes, there will be archaeological survey and testing done for all excavation on White Street, where within the area of effect.
I think we all need to understand what the excavation consists of. I mean, bringing down the buildings is one thing. Can you just, could somebody give us a sense of where the excavation is in terms of timing and who's responsible for that? What firm is doing that? And also, is Gramercy doing the design build as well as the demolition? You were introduced as the design build firm, so you're doing all of it, the demolition and the design build. Is that correct or not?
So I tried to, sorry if that wasn't clear when I was presenting the project intro schedule slide. So it's two separate teams. The RFQ for the design builder for the facility construction went out this past September, and the RFP went out to that short list of short list of teams who responded at the end of December. And we expect to have that design build team onboarded by Q1 of 2023, at which point they'll do something similar to what Gramercy is doing now with, planning it out, and we'll be able to come back and share that information with this community board of what the plans are, what the process looks like for the design build team. So that's not questions for Richard tonight.
So there is no design build team yet identified?
Correct.
And so you are only hired to do the demolition. Is that correct?
We are performing the design build of the Sally Port, the make-ready spaces, and the dismantlement.
Okay. Again, could we get clarity on the excavation? Could someone speak another moment about who was responsible for the excavation under the ground level? Towards
that will be the design build contractor for the future building.
To the structure of the original buildings. Who is responsible for moving that, or is that being reused, or what is going to happen to that structure?
Rich, let me take a crack at this. So the existing foundation wall and slab is remaining during the Dismantle project. The new facility design builder will be removing that work and excavating the site in the future.
That's helpful. Okay.
So, and just to go back to the backfill is going to be backfill on top of existing slab within the cellar and basement. No excavation is involved.
I've got a couple more people who have questions.
Okay, I've got 3 more questions. Could you please, has the demolition contract been signed with the City of New York? That is now signed and you are able to go ahead. Is that correct by parties?
That is correct, yes.
And is the Department of Building, all plans have been submitted and all approvals for the demolition of these 2 buildings has been received?
That hasn't been submitted yet, but we've had a consultation meeting with DOB.
And
when you say it hasn't been submitted, could you be more precise? What exactly, what has not been submitted?
All of the packages have not been submitted.
So you have not received approval yet for the demolition of these 2 buildings, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Pat, I'll leave it. You let me come in later, but I think I'm done. Thank you for now. Sorry for long-winded. Thank you very much, all of you.
Yeah, Alice, to your questions, I think it might be helpful if we go back to the video, the animation, just to make it clear that what is the level of demolition and that Gramercy scope is to
I don't need it, but I'm happy to see it again. But
well, if we can, if I have,
we're not excavating. I think we just wanted to make it clear. that
If you want me to
really
fast forward to the
foundation
third point,
You
Becky.
promised you're excavating a 10,000 gallon tank, a diesel tank.
Right. I
Sounds
think
quite accurate.
Remove
the footprint is actually not as big as it sounds. And Neil, what is the estimated footprint for that?
It's about a little over 10 by 15. But again, we're removing the tank. We're not excavating. The tank
Right.
is being removed
So
with
it's about a 10 by 15 feet tank.
All right, so you'll be back and we'll hear more about that. I need to move on because we have other questions. I have a question. Has the what is it, the NAC? Is that what it's called? The neighborhood
Advisory, yes.
has that been organized already? The neighborhood advisory committee?
We oh, sorry,
Go ahead. No, please, Lauren, go ahead.
I was gonna say we are rescheduling that. We're in the process of it. We're trying to do that as soon as we can. We're looking at we're trying to get it into January. It might be early February at this point, but we'll let you know as soon as we do get that scheduled.
And so who will be on that though?
So in fairness to Councilmember Marte and Borough President Levine, we just met with them yesterday for the first time.
Right.
Traditionally, it's been a collaboration between the council member, the borough president, and the mayor's office, the community affairs unit. So between the three offices, that's how it was done in the previous administration. We're sort of waiting for some guidance as to how it will be done in this current administration, but I'm assuming Councilmember Marte will want to have, I don't want to speak for him, of course, but I'm assuming he'll want to have a say in the folks that are on that.
Oh, okay, the say, and okay, I thought you were saying they would be on the committee. So you're saying they'll have a say in who will be, because of course it's neighborhood, it needs to be people from the neighborhood and
Yes, no, I mean, he's welcome to attend as he is tonight. I mean, of course.
If you want to say anything about that, up in. Other than that, we'll just keep going. Chris? Nope. Or he's frozen.
Sorry, I'm planning to talk to Mark Levine about this soon,
Okay.
and then I'll follow up with the community board.
Sure, and I mean, I'm hoping you'll be coming and that you'll at some point hire a liaison who will be coming to Quality of Life to answer questions.
And my liaison is actually on. Her name is Chloe, and so I can introduce her after the presentation.
Yeah, please. We'll meet Chloe after. Okay, so right now I have Francis, Rosa, Mitch, and Justine. In that order. Francis, Rosa, Mitch, and Justine. Unmute yourself, please.
Hi. Okay, Pat, just a few things. I appreciate what Pat said because I too am visual and I appreciate the visual sight of actually what's going on. I'm not an architect. I don't have any of those background skills. So to see what's going to happen was very enlightening for me. And Alice, thank you for asking the questions about the health piece because I am concerned about its impact on the community's health because we've been through a lot, and there seems like there's a tremendous amount of work that's going on in a small area. And after 9/11, the stuff that we suffered through, and that was a larger area. This is definitely seems like it's going to have more of an impact. My other question is that, okay, this is a long and complicated and tremendous project, and it's going to take a lot of years. And during that time, there's going to be different stages of weather. And so therefore, as the weather changes, if we have a snowstorm, a tsunami, or whatever, God forbid, I'm not wishing it, but things happen as far as the weather goes. And once that happens, if the timeline changes, will the community be notified and advised as the significant changes or the impact that the weather or anything else has, any changes in the timeline? Will the community be notified of those changes? That's my question.
So our dismantlement is always designed for the negative weather conditions, right? So we don't design it for the summer sunny days. We design it for the hurricanes, for the snow loads, and everything's built in order to have those contingencies in place. If there is a catastrophic type event, everything gets, lashed down, put indoors, further strapped, and there's an entire plan dedicated, through the DOB and their requirements. Things must be turned a certain way when there's a storm and things of that nature.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's
Yes.
Rosa, Mitch, Justine, and Vera.
Thank you so much, Pat. Richard, I had a question for you related to the encouraging employees to use mass transit. Do you personally commit to using mass transit instead of personal vehicles to be coming to this project? And also, how will you be encouraging your employees to do so? I mean, it's nice to say that's what you would like them to do, but actual reinforcement of that in some nature with actual penalties for not complying would be a little bit more convincing, given that downtown we have a significant issue with placard parking abuse absolutely everywhere.
So I personally I'm in the city now. I'm a few blocks away from the project site. I was here all day. We have a temporary office space that we're working out of, and I live on Long Island. I took the train today and the subway. And that's how I'm getting home after this meeting, as well as quite a few other people that were here today. We all took mass transit. There are no parking in the areas. Parking in the parking garages is extremely expensive for everybody to do on a daily basis. We close off, we have orientations. We explain all the roads that are not allowed to be parked on as part of this project, the surrounding areas, and that's in development. The encouraging part is there is no parking nearby, and parking, if you want to use the parking garage, is extremely expensive for you to do on a daily basis every single day. For these people, they all, most of them are city residents, and they do travel by transit to our job sites. We do many jobs in the city, and that is the preferred method of transportation for our workers.
But do you have anything to back it up?
I mean, I don't know how to prove, other than train ticket receipts, I don't know how to prove that. But it is in fact true. I mean, it is the preferred method. It's the easiest way. Traffic is terrible. It is extremely terrible now after COVID. What used to take an hour to get to the city now takes 2 hours to get to the city. And it just is not an effective way to transport into the sites.
Okay, and thank you. I have a question regarding something that was brought up at the land use meeting, which is actually pre-construction surveys. I was a little concerned when people that were in buildings that were directly connected actually to one of the other buildings that you're going to be taking down, were mentioning that nobody had come in to do pre-construction surveys of their spaces. Have you guys started that process yet?
We have not started it yet. It will be done before we start dismantlement. We've only been on the project now since the end of December. We are meeting with our sub-consultants. They will be putting together the plan to come to the neighboring properties and do the site assessments. We will be doing preliminary backgrounds on dust, noise, and vibrations so that we have baselines to work off of. And that all will be done in the next upcoming few months.
Just to add, just to add on to that, meant to mention during the slides about recent community engagement that we did also meet with Charlie from Chung Pak to have a coordination meeting about direct impacts and what we need to coordinate. And Neil might be able to speak a bit more to that, but we are beginning the outreach portion.
And we did have conversations with Charlie. The buildings, to clarify, and we clarified, are not connected. They are adjacent, but they are not connected. They are independent foundations with independent walls.
Right, but given that this is going to be a significant amount of work directly adjacent to, but not connected to their buildings, and that these are older buildings, we would imagine that there is going to be some effect from that. But regardless of whether there's an effect or not, you would have to do a pre-construction survey first to be able to assess whether any effect has been had on those areas and what.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
And we've been in contact with Charlie, and we've been discussing the roof protection with him and going over what needs to be completed for this project.
Okay, and then last question / comment is, as you've been hearing, this is a neighborhood and a community that has been traumatized by the effects of 9/11 and are still reeling from that from a health standpoint. And so anything related to airborne pollution, it is a very, very sensitive topic for good reason, and given past history. So we would like to see more from you guys that is going to ensure that as much as is technologically, humanly possible today, that we are going to be protected, right?
Absolutely.
And I honestly, I didn't really sort of see and like enough reassurance, frankly, in your presentation to show that we were going to be protected.
So asbestos, we are an asbestos abatement contractor. It's one of our core businesses, right? Abatement and dismantlement. We do it in-house with our own team. We have, there's strict guidances with the Department of Labor on how you're supposed to perform containments, negative air exchanges, filtering, et cetera, and all that will be adhered to. Perimeter dust from dismantlement will be just strictly monitored. You have to use ample water to wet everything down. We have the dust machines that I showed to you, and all of that will be implemented on this project. When a community is not happy with dust, that's not good. That's not what we want. We want to keep everything inside our fence line and keep everything safe. It not only protects you, but it protects our workers.
And we will also be, we will share the monitoring report that Rich and his teams that they generate on a quarterly basis. So we will make those available to the community board, to the public. So we will be as transparent as we can throughout the process.
And it's going to be on a quarterly basis, not on a, let's say, daily or weekly basis. I mean, if there's an issue with the air quality, I mean, we would obviously prefer to know more than quarterly.
Okay, we will look into that and see if we can provide something on a more frequent basis. Right now we were planning on publishing the reports quarterly, but they will be assessing. And of course, if there's an incident, if there's anything that needs to be, that the community needs to know about, on an emerging basis, that's why we have our CCL, Pauline Chan, who has again already begun outreach directly to residents and businesses in the area. And she'll be sharing, advisories, notifications of really timely information and updates.
Okay, and then the last thing on this I just wanted to say is,
sorry, Rosa.
imagine, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Rosa, I just want to, does DEP monitor your removal of the asbestos and any other toxic materials? Who, I mean, I know you're qualified to do it, but who monitors the job?
This is Anil. I could take this, Richard. We have a consultant that will be performing air monitoring during the abatement work. The building will be 100% abated before dismantlement commence.
So it's a firm that you're hiring to monitor the job?
Yeah, we can have the design builder monitor its own work. We have an independent consultant that will be
right. So what I'm also saying is, so DEP doesn't get involved in this at all?
DEP, Gramercy will submit to get a permit, an ACP filing with the agency, but an independent consultant will be monitoring the work and submitting report to DEP.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Rosa, sorry.
Okay, so sorry, the last thing I just want to say is that obviously Columbus Park is right beside this property. And so Richard, when you and your team, Lauren, when you and your team are working on this, please recognize that we have children like literally next door, right? So when we're talking about air quality and, we have real fears. So just, I don't know how else to express it, but we need you guys to like really be on top of this part.
No, I understand that. I have children myself. Trust me, I understand the importance of keeping dust and vibration and noise controlled on a construction site. That's it is of utmost importance to us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so Mitch, Justine, and Vera.
Hi, Pat. I actually had a couple of questions about the artwork situation, but before I forget, I would like to piggyback on something that Rosa brought up with Richard, I think. Who is hiring the independent consultant? Is it Gramercy or is it an outside, like, somebody not related to Gramercy? Obviously.
The DDC, Anil, you can repeat, but we are not allowed to hire somebody to watch us.
Right. Okay, just make sure.
The ACOM Hill joint venture team, which is the program.
No, that's okay. I just want, because there are some situations where there's policing, in buildings departments and everything. So I just wanted to let me cross that off. And then also, when Rosa was asking about the parking, I totally believe you're taking public transportation, and some of your, the other members, of course, it's easier to come in from Long Island in public transportation with the traffic. But I think the spirit of the question, unless you have any mechanisms for preventing it, there will be placard parking there because it's unenforceable right now. So
just to clarify,
Sure.
we have no placards. We are not a placard company. We are not part of the government. We have no placards for this.
No, I know that. We're talking about, but the space, it's still like, it's not an enclosed space where they're going onto a work site. It's like an open space, right?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Like, it's like placard parkings can access those spaces even if your company is not using them. So like, you know, as opposed to going into a closed work site.
So
Yeah, but they don't have any placards. They
I
won't
don't have placards.
They won't
Okay.
be placard parking.
Okay, so let me go to the artwork. If you can, I'm not sure who this is, would be the best person to answer this. The artwork was all commissioned, is that correct?
I originally. Sorry, Marcy, go ahead. You were chiming in.
You're talking about the existing artwork that's on the site?
The artwork that's going to be taken down and possibly stored in Rikers and everything, or moved somewhere.
Yes, that was commissioned by the city in the 80s.
Who owns it technically?
The city of New York.
Okay, so because I had heard in some of the previous discussions that the artists might have some say in, where things happen and everything, but basically, just to be totally cold about it, the city could say, we're doing what we want because we own it. I mean, like, so.
Well, with the contract that the city have, so I would really had hope if our public art liaison would have been here, but if I had it correct, is that the contract that the city has with the artist allows that if the city would like to display the work in any other way, apart from how it is currently displayed in the future, then we need to consult with the artist.
Okay, that's good, because in a lot of situations, the person that writes the song or writes the book or commissions the artwork, they lose control over anything. So I just want, okay. And then the other thing is, you had said that a lot of this stuff is going to be stored on Rikers. Is there any mechanism for maintaining? Because if it's just stored on Rikers, that's, it's going to be damaged over the years through the elements. Is there any mechanism for maintaining it in top quality condition?
So part of our contract is.
Yeah, Rich, you can speak to the art conservator's involvement.
So we have an art conservator that is photographing and documenting the artwork at the condition that it's in. It will be properly crated and stored at Rikers in crates, not just open to the elements.
Right. And then one other thing that I had saw on the news or read somewhere over the last few weeks, some of the art you're able to take down and dismantle, but there was some of the art that was built in like a mural, but built into the bricks, into the walls. And is it just, there's no way that won't be destroyed? Is there any way that like the bricks or something could be taken down in slabs so that those structures are not destroyed, like happening in some other places in the world?
So that artwork is not able to be saved in this removal process by the means of the construction that it's on. However, the original, and I don't remember the exact term, but the original, I'm going to call it mock-ups for pardon my language here. Maquettes are still in existence, so they can be reproduced.
Well, so you said in the way that you're doing the construction, those specific situations, they won't be able to be saved. So does that mean that might be some other options in how you're doing the deconstruction to then not destroy those pieces of art instead of just doing it the most expedient way or cheapest way?
They are built into the entire facade of the building. There is no way to remove the artwork from the facade.
Yeah, we're referring to the Richard Haas murals on the Baxter Street side of the facility. As Rich mentioned, Richard Haas has, it's our understanding, he has the originals. So if the community and Mr. Haas decided that this is something that wanted to return to this particular location or another location, as Mercy mentioned, that's something we could talk about in the future.
Thank you.
Right, and Mr. Haas actually contracted with artisans to do the reproduction on the wall. I mean, not reproduction, but he did the original maquette, and then they were enlarged and painted on the actual site by artists that he hired himself.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mitch. Okay, so we have Justine, Vera, and Richard.
Thank you so much. I'll try to be quick. Thank you all for the really great presentation. I appreciate that. I want to focus on the environmental concerns raised by what you guys are doing. So, having lived on the west side through most of the dismantling and removal of the World Trade Center debris after 9/11, and knowing the health effects suffered by people who were on the route of the trucks taking the debris out of, I'm going to call it the pit, but the World Trade Center site, and people along that route, even though those trucks were watered down and everything else, those people are getting sick now, 20 years later. I'm not so confident that your dust destroyers are going to be protecting anybody in Chinatown. That may be the best state-of-the-art equipment available, but I'm really very concerned about the effects and the health effects about the people in Chinatown and the neighboring area. And I am not at all confident that what we're seeing so far even takes remotely into consideration the health effects of the neighborhood. So I would expect that your safety site plan is going to address every little bit of it, including, so wait, so let me actually ask you a question because I'm sort of yelling at you right now. But I noticed you talked about the Chung Pak building and you put sort of like a protector over it in your thing. How is that going to protect against dust and particulate matter going into their air filters? And how is that going to protect the tenants that either work and or live in that building? And how is that going to protect any of the buildings that are outside and around it? Just even the construction, even if it's just the concrete being smashed, it is a health hazard and it is a dangerous conditions that are being created in a very highly densely populated area.
So
that's question one.
Okay, so the environmental work will be done prior to dismantlement. Okay, so that's not going to be done open air. Environmental work is done under containment and sealed prior to removal from the site. It is not done open air with dust. It's just not. It's done inside containment. It's pressurized. The pressures are monitored, and you have the consultant hired by the city to oversee us to make sure that we are compliant with those rules. So when you're doing dismantlement, you're not going to be dealing with environmental at the same time, right? They're two different issues. Now, the dust issues from
a quick question about that. So then the air monitors will be in place and there will be multiple air monitors in place during that phase of it?
So there's two different types of air monitoring. Okay, there's air monitoring for environmental concerns like asbestos, which monitor the pressure differences, monitors the air in the perimeter if there are any asbestos fibers, and all that work is done. When you're doing dismantlement, you set up dust monitors that are slightly different. They're looking for different types of contaminants. The dust monitors are set up around the perimeter, right? This way you have points around the project that you're watching on a daily basis or minute by minute basis because it's real time. You get alerts to your phone when there's a trigger. And you always set those triggers at a threshold lower than you want. So if threshold 1, we put them at 0.5 so that if it goes off, nothing happened yet, but we know something could happen and we could address it immediately. And that's how we protect the neighborhood, right? We set those monitors at a point lower than allowable and below the baseline of the neighborhood so that we know if something's happening, so that we can address it. We can put more water. And as you mentioned, we do use the state-of-the-art technology for dust control. I mean, if there's more technology out there, we are the first ones to go after it and find it and implement it, right? Because it's our business, right? Our business wouldn't be successful if you had lots of problems on your projects. We do this throughout the city all the time. It's our core business, and we protect our neighbors. That's what we do. We monitor it. It's the most important part of the project, and we know that.
So there's a guarantee that there'll be air monitoring, and I guess there was a question with quarterly. I think Rosa asked it. I think it needs to be daily, and I don't know what, as someone who's smarter than I am in terms of standards, in terms of air monitoring, where they need to be and stuff like that. That can be stuff that we can work out and talk about. But I really think it needs to be out there, and we need to have daily reports. And also for your workers, right? They're going to be within the area. What protections are they going to be wearing? Masks, and they're going to be protected for their breathing, and they're going to have safety measures in place?
So based on the type of work they are performing that day, there's different levels of PPE required. And that is all monitored and done, if they need fit tests for the mask they're wearing, all of that is performed.
So, okay, so that's somewhat helpful that you're saying nothing's going to get out. But what is, I mean, even the Deutsche Bank building, when that was coming down and that was shrouded for, I'll say months, it probably was years, as they were taking it down. Dust stuff came out of that. Sorry, I lived across the street. I'm sure they mitigated as much as they could. Stuff came out of it. So stuff will come out of this. And especially for the Chung Pak building, you're taking things down as you go into the demolition. It's above it. It's going to be falling into their air filters, assuming that that's an intake filter, not an exhale, an exhaust filter. I don't know what you had on the roof, but what protections are in place for the buildings? Anything, or is that just not something that we're worried about, or that DDC or any of the government agencies are worried about?
So when you talk about things falling,
No, I don't mean,
things aren't
I
allowed
mean
to fall
small.
off job sites.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't mean like, you know, I'm sure you're doing that. I'm giving you that credit that you're not going
Okay,
to have.
I wasn't sure.
Concrete.
No, I
Yeah,
mean dust. I mean dust falling. It's being encapsulated on our job site. We are putting dust blankets. We are using the misters. We are keeping the work site wet. You know, we are using every available technology we have, and we are going to monitor the situation. We have access agreements being negotiated with Chung Pak so that we have access to their building. We're able to go on their roof. We're able to stay in touch with them throughout the entire process.
And you'll have air monitors on their roof and then other neighboring roofs to make sure that what's going there is safe, and then on the ground where people are walking.
Yes, we're going to do a complete study as to where these monitors need to be placed in order to be the most effective.
And what hours of work are you going to be doing? So this is a residential as well as a work, you know, community.
The standard work hours will be 7 to 3:30.
7 to 3:30. I'd love to hear from the people who actually live there if 7 a.m. is too early.
I mean, I always think 7 is too
I think
early.
it is
I
too
don't know
early too.
why the
And
state can't change that to 8. It's crazy.
I
But
mean, you know, we've had some success in Battery Park City asking people to push it to 8 for weekdays, and then if it's going to be weekend work, pushing it to 9 or 10, just because people need to sleep. But I will.
We can come back and
When there's a people who raise their hand in the community, they should raise their hands and weigh in on what their preferred hours are, and then we see what we can do. But that's something we can at least advocate for. And then, just as a question, why do you backfill? You know, you said this, you're going to go down 15 feet because it's a basement. Why do you have to put dirt in there when you're going to just rip it up again to do or someone's going to for the excavation? What's the point of that?
Richard, I'll take this. So originally, our original schedule, if there were a gap between the facility DB and the new facility DB, we have to backfill the site. But at this time, our schedule does not have any gaps, so there's a great possibility we will not be backfilling it because we'll have the facility DB on board. And based on the schedule we provided, it shows there's no gap between the two contractors.
Okay.
So where our intent is not to backfill, but Gramercy, when he did his presentation, that's in his scope. So he shows you what is in his scope.
Okay, that makes sense. And then who's going to do the air monitoring? Is that a government agency or is it?
The asbestos air monitoring will be done by an independent consultant hired by us.
Gramercy Group?
No, not Gramercy Group. We are the program manager for DDC, the Palm Hill joint venture. The monitoring for dust and vibration. Rich, you want to say? I guess your consultant will be doing those.
Right. So we have one consultant that is going to be putting together the plan and one consultant that will be performing the work itself. So you have two sets of consultants overseeing it.
Okay. And Pat, I guess my last question to you, and I'm going to just say is I would really love, once this finally starts, I think we need to hear from these folks once a month.
Oh yeah, we will discuss it, but before the project even starts, they're going to be coming back with some more environmental information, and so
stuff
thank you,
like
Justine.
no, thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, so next is Vera and then Richard.
Thanks, Pat. Richard, my question is, you know, this horrific demolition that's occurring with so much impact that it will have on our community, as you have heard. I really have heard no details as to the impact that this will have on traffic on the streets. For instance, Center Street is a major street, Brooklyn Bridge coming down to Center Street to Canal Street. Canal Street, then you mentioned there's a route of how you're going to have trucks going in and out along tiny Baxter Street, where there are so many tenement buildings right there. And then, as you know, there's a health center, Chinatown Health Clinic Center, the Chinatown Health Center that's along Walker Street, where people need to come in and out for their health. I see nothing as to how many, what is your daily schedule? You mentioned 7 a.m. to 3:30 a.m. How many trucks are coming in? How many trucks are coming out? How is this going to impact all the traffic? Have you done any studies on this? How is this going to impact pedestrian traffic? A lot of our people in our community have to walk along those streets to get basic necessities like foods and things for them to be able to eat on a daily basis, to take their kids to school. I mean, where is this traffic study? I don't see any traffic study or any impact on how this is going to have on the traffic and on our pedestrian walks.
So to date, we have confirmed that all of our truck routes meet the required turn radiuses for all of our vehicles, that we're able to physically maneuver in the routes that we are proposing. We have looked at all of the street and lane closures and fencing. We have consulted with the DOT to make sure that everything we are doing is compliant and practical. And we are in the process of looking at traffic counts.
Okay, but none of that has been shared with us. When will that be shared with us so that we can weigh in? Those of us who actually live, walk, and drive around here.
In the beginning of this presentation, I went over the sidewalk and lane closures that will be occurring on the project.
Yes, but what about the impacts that this will have on the?
So there's, sorry if I may jump in,
So
this
that-
is Jeff from DDC.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, sorry. No, so there's a few parts to Gramercy's plan, and that Rich has shown you some of them. One is the exit and entry, which I know you had some thoughts on, of course. One is the sidewalk closures and sidewalk shed and pedestrian routes, and then the third is a traffic study that they have to do and then present to DOT. And that is what, and I apologize, I believe it was Ms. Banks that Alice had mentioned that she wanted to see that, and that's something we committed to coming back and showing to you.
Okay, when will that traffic study be shown to us?
So they can't start until that is finalized, so it will have to be sometime in February. So we'll have to figure out if it's the next quality of life committee meeting. We can certainly do that.
We don't have a firm date to give you today. We're working with the team to understand when that will be ready to share. And as soon as it is, we will come back and present that information to the community.
Okay, Pat, that's it for me right now. I see other people from the community really have their hands up and want to speak. Thank you, Pat.
I mean, we saw on the slides that the trucks were going to come around and go toward Canal Street. When they get to Canal Street, where are they going? Are they going to Jersey or are they going to Brooklyn?
It will be a combination of both, depending on the types of debris.
All right, so you'll get back to us though when the traffic study is going to be presented. Richard?
Yeah, thank you, Pat. So I have two questions. One is not going to surprise you at all. The first one is, what information did we have to foil in order to receive? Why did we have to foil that? And what information do we still have to foil that you're not providing, and why aren't you able to provide that?
Hi, this is Jeff again. So I was referring to, there was a previous request. We did some borings of the soil, mainly to identify the depth of the subway roof as well as the utilities, Con Ed, etc. Those were done over several weekends over the past few months in 2021. We had provided the community board an executive summary with the thought that that might be helpful. I believe the request was for a more extensive full report. We have lawyers at DDC who like to request that everybody foil things. I understand that's frustrating, but that is the directive we have across the agency for any project. So the district manager foiled the full soil boring report and was provided it in a, I guess it was, I don't want to say immediately, but it was a relatively timely manner after he requested it. So that is what I was referring to earlier about FOIL. And there was a request for lots of different reports. So again, we'll share everything we can. If something needs to be foiled, we'll certainly let the district manager know, or the community at large. Anyone is welcome to foil. And we work very closely with our FOIL officer to make sure those are turned around in a relatively quickly manner.
Richard, I just want to add that's accurate, and we have also foiled and had it to foil, which is unfortunate for the RFP on this project, which I'm hopeful we can get also in short order. Sorry, thanks.
So yeah, thanks, Jeff. But let me just refer back to a comment that was made earlier about how this process needs to rebuild the trust of the community, and I fail to see how a lack of transparency, that requiring foils for information that should be provided to the community establishes that level of trust. So you can report that back to your attorneys if you would. I don't think it's particularly constructive as far as this project is concerned. And that kind of leads me to my second question, which is going to be repetitive, and it's not going to be the last time you're going to hear this. This has to do with, again, a level of trust on anything like this and related to the environment. As you've heard from Rosa and Justine and others and Alice, this community, for many, many reasons, beginning at 9/11 and the Deutsche Bank demolition and other reasons, is extremely sensitive about environmental impacts of this kind of project, of this particular project. We all know people who've died from the impacts of those events. And we all know people who are currently sick from those events. And they weigh very heavily on us. So I would very much like to hear again, I know you've said it, but it's not exactly always clear to us, what independent environmental overview is going to be done. To what degree will the community be apprised of those of that monitoring? And ultimately, I would like to have, and I would like to think the community board would like to have, an environmental monitor, be it hired by the city or whatever, that is in fact obligated to and responsible to the community and the community board to ensure for us that we have all the information we need to know that we are protected.
Excellent point, Richard.
So I can respond to part of that, at least, with how are we sharing the information with all the monitoring that's being done. Again, we have committed to preparing those reports and putting them on the website and sharing them, with this community. So we will be following through on that. We'll be making the contents of that report known and public. As for I just want to acknowledge that we've heard loud and clear the request that be more frequently than quarterly. Let us take that back under consideration, and we'll let you know about the frequency of that. But again, we do have our on-the-ground community construction liaison. So I just want to say, if you see anything, if there's anything that seems alarming to you, if you have questions throughout the process, it's not only at these community board meetings that you have the opportunity to ask questions or get, raise your concerns with the design build team. We are here to facilitate that dialogue. So please feel free to reach out, stop by the office, email, phone call questions. As for questions of the sort of independent overview, I don't know if Anil or Mercy could potentially respond to that.
Sure. Again, we will be hiring an independent licensed consultant to monitor all abatement activity on site. The actual work will be performed by a licensed contractor through Gramercy, but the actual monitoring of Gramercy work will be done by an independent consultant.
And that consultant is being paid by whom?
By the DDC.
By the city, yes.
By the city.
By the city.
Yes, Gramercy cannot monitor their own work in terms of abatement. It has to be independent.
A third party, right? That is correct.
And I think Richard probably undersold the fact that they're using an innovative scaffolding system on their North Tower dismantling, which is a
We
crawling
are very
scaffold
sensitive to
system.
scaffolding, so Mercy, we're happy to see that scaffolding and not having cross braces. We love it. We'll talk further about scaffolding. It's one of the big things on our committee's mind. Richard, are you finished?
I think I am finished. Yes, I think
Just remember,
this
they will
issue.
be back.
I know, but also remember that this is imminent, and so we need to get these issues addressed
But before they
urgently
start
and quickly.
construction, they're going to come back and talk to us about environmental impacts, and we can, we can have our own discussion in committee and decide what questions and what else we need to know and would like to ask. All right. So if that's it, no other committee members, anyone from the public have a question? Aleutian, is anyone?
Yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members of the public with their hand up, starting with Nancy.
Okay, I'd
Nancy,
like to
request. Oh, sorry, Pat, go ahead.
It's 7.
I just want to, it's getting late, and I
Aleutian?
just want to, we have another big topic. I just want the members of the public to know we want to hear from them, but please keep it short. And if it's something that's already been asked, please don't ask a question that's been asked and answered. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lucian.
Nancy, you're free to go.
Thanks very much, and I will definitely try to keep it brief. I agree with Alice. I'm completely heartbroken, dismayed at the city and the contractors for charging ahead, despite the concerns raised by the community from day one, which are not only fundamental flaws in the assumptions leading to this monstrosity that was approved, but really in meeting the true intent of creating more humane, smaller, safer, and fair jail system. I do want to ask if anybody on this call has read the report that Liz Glacier came out with. She was the former architect of the borough-based jails within the de Blasio administration. In there, I'm going to cite a few things, but before I continue with that, you speak and present this plan in such a transitional way, but I really want you all to take a moment to understand the magnitude of the lives and the communities this project is impacting, not just today, but for decades to come. There are over thousands of seniors and children living within 1,000 feet of this project. So when the community board members ask about air monitoring, traffic, pollution, noise control, the impact that we have the highest asthma rates in the city. In the neighborhood advisory committee meetings, we asked for benchmarks. None of that has happened. We asked for traffic studies. None of that has been provided. We asked for daily monitoring of the results, and we're being told they're provided quarterly. I want to know if anyone has read through the community requests. That's one question. My second item really relates to the Liz Glacier report that I do want to quote, if I could. It'll just take 2 seconds. She came out with a list of concerns, which actually validated many of the concerns that the community initially raised. She did make a recommendation to the current and the new administration in terms of looking at smaller and using existing buildings to relook at the design and build because it limits competition, to increase hospital beds. All of this, and I quote, is to prevent a decentralized mini version of Rikers. I don't see any of that happening, and all I see is this is charging forward with really blinders on. And I really am calling on our elected officials, our community board, to make a full push to have the city and the mayor really take a pause and look at some alternatives. We are open to discussion and negotiations, but that has not happened. So I just, again, thank you to the community board for raising the questions and the time for me to make my comments. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next.
Next, we have Kathy Wong Lero, the hand up, and you are, oh, I'm sorry. Eric, there's a person whose name is Eric with their hand up. I'm going to go with that first. We're going to try to take this in the order that the hands went up. Sorry about that. Eric?
My questions, some of the smart people in this meeting have asked
a lot of my questions before I raised my hand. Really quickly, as a construction project manager for the last 40 years, I can tell you that what Gramercy's project manager said is probably exactly what I would say if I were asked some of the questions that he were asked. But I'm going to tell you what's really going to happen. For example, with the issue of parking and vehicle idling. We leave our houses at 4:30 to 5 o'clock in the morning to get to these job sites, often from places that do not have public transportation serving us, and we drive to our construction sites. We take up all the area parking that we can as soon as we can. We're sitting in our trucks, drinking our coffee and reading our newspapers, waiting for these construction jobs to start. Part of it has to do with transit, and part of it has to do with the fact that we have to transport PPE, our safety equipment, and our tools. So they have no control over who drives and who doesn't drive. It's just window dressing. It's nice to say it, but they don't have any control over it, and just be prepared for it. The next thing is about the logistics of idling trucks and this concept of just-in-time delivery. I can tell you precisely how this plays out in the real world. The vehicles are idling in convoys on any vacant streets they can find. I think a lot of you experienced this with the boom that was taking place 2017, 2018 down in the financial district. There were trucks that were serving those sites idling and waiting at 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. on Canal Street, 5 to 10 of them at a time. And basically it's stealth logistics. They don't magically come in from helicopters. They're waiting there to get to the site. Otherwise, they don't get to the site in time. So it's not exactly accurate to say this thing just in time. It's one of those nice words we use to make people feel better. I use them myself. Full disclosure, sorry, but that's just how it is. Justine raised a really interesting question about Chung Pak and air filters. Chung Pak almost certainly has makeup air and fresh air intakes that are fresh air powered fans that pull in fresh air to disperse throughout their buildings. Those fans are going to need some kind of HEPA filtration to prevent dust from migrating through their building. I like your fancy scaffolding system, but if you're lifting off precast panels, it's going to be open on the top. And that means the site is not enclosed all the time. So, that's another thing for people to look at. The other thing about Chung Pak, we asked you about, was it attached? I know it's not attached. I did a survey of Chung Pak 2 years ago. But there is another issue, and that is in the era that Chung Pak and 125 Walker Street, Lafayette, I should say, Center Street were built. The building code had no provisions for seismic separations. The buildings were frequently almost, if not even actually touching. So vibration is going to be a really big issue for you guys in regard to that, because there is no seismic separation between those two structures. And the backfill question was already asked and answered. Oh, oil tanks. I did a quick mathematical computation. It is mathematically impossible that you could fit 10,000 gallons in a 10 by 15 cylinder. The tank is at least 20% bigger than that, just by math. And the excavation that you'd have to do around it commensurately is probably 50 to 100% bigger, because you got to get to it and get it out. So if we're going to talk about things, let's just be accurate. And that just about covers all of my questions. Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. I apologize. One more. The logistics on Baxter Street. Are you going to be able to maintain the curbside dining that those restaurants depend on for their revenue stream and still keep Baxter Street open? That's the last of my questions. Thank you.
If anyone have an answer?
So we are not closing the restaurants on Baxter. We're only taking the parking lane on the west side.
Okay, asked and answered. Thank you. Next.
Okay, next we have Jan Lee. Jan, you can unmute.
Again, we're getting short on time, so keep it as short and brief as possible.
Maybe do a little show and tell here, and if the panelists could, if they can, turn on the cameras, because I would like to ask them, I understand that you have tremendous confidence in this project and that everything you've said is true and, worthy of your seal of approval. However, as it was said by Richard, this is a community that has gone through a lot. We've lived through 9/11. We have found that there's actually 9/11 dust on the complex that you're taking down, which is a very serious concern. Would you guys put your mom and dad in Chung Pak and Baxter Street to live there for the duration of this project? If we were able to give you some apartments, Joanna Parzalia, I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name, Joseph, Richard, who lives on Long Island. How about we swap out the apartments and you put your grandparents in there because our grandparents are in there? Would you put your grandparents in? Can I get a commitment from you that you have enough confidence here that you would raise your hand to this and say, yes, I have confidence that I will do this, put my grandparents in there for the duration from day one until the end, 24/7? Would you commit to that? Would you raise your hand in agreement that you would do this with your grandparents in these buildings on Baxter Street and Chung Pak?
I'm going to tell you, absolutely.
And I mean, indulge me. So we have one.
So I would like to chime in a little bit because I do have a personal connection to the neighborhood. I don't live here now, but my mother actually did grow up on Mulberry Street, 117 Mulberry Street.
I appreciate the sentiment and the trip down
The
memory lane.
neighborhood does have a personal
We're
connection
talking
to
about
me
very
and my
serious
family,
things here, and I'm
it was
asking.
part of our proposal to the city is that we took our means and methods, we put the utmost importance into protecting the surrounding neighborhood. And I feel like that's probably one of the biggest reasons why we were chosen as a design build contractor for the dismantlement. So yes, I would agree with Richard. I would feel confident with the plans that we have in place and with our track record that we are going to protect the community.
So another contractor that was working on Worth Street had a crane on site in 2016 that actually fell. It shook the buildings around. It caused vibration issues. It shut down the water mains. The gas lines were shut down in our neighborhood. Subway trains were rerouted. I'm sure that contractor came to that job with the same level of confidence that we're hearing today. And what we are concluding tonight is that of all the panelists, the representatives from DDC, from the Gramercy company that's been here, awarded this contract, we have two people who are willing to swap out our seniors who are going to be here.
All right.
I'm also
I
willing.
think you've asked the question and they've answered, and we have our new council person here. We can continue this discussion with him, and there are other. I understand your sentiment, but I think we have to move on. All right, unless you had another question.
And I just want to say thank you to CB1 for this unbelievable continued support of our community. Thank you.
We live here too. You're welcome. Okay. Next.
Okay, next we have Edward Kuchia. You can unmute.
For hearing from me. Well, first of all, what Eric said was horrifying. My office is at 121 Walker Street, so I'm right in the Chung Pak building. I live on Mulberry, right next to Joseph's grandma. I live on Mulberry and Canal. So I am a double whammy here. Let me give this community board a few things because I've been sort of given the summary on community outreach. Finally, for the first time, I want to thanks to Shao Min Tao, Pauline Pan, and Cynthia Carry On for coming to see me. And Joseph, I apologize to you, sir. You tried to come to see me and I actually had to reschedule. So I finally, for the first time, had some community outreach, and that's a great thing. I do have a question though. Doesn't the city of New York have insurance? And that's a strange question. You can ask my sister Justine because I sent her a copy of the Chung Pak request. I'm being asked as a tenant of the Chung Pak building to put down the city of New York as a co-insured on my insurance policy, raising my premiums. Why? It just sounds ridiculous. I already asked Pauline Chan to look into that. She has not gotten back to me. I can show I sent to Justine the Chung Pak request for that. That just sounds ridiculous. Can someone please tell me why my insurance has to cover the city of New York? Is that even legal? Anyone have an answer?
I can say just that it's the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, DCAS, at 1 Center Street.
And Edward, I do want to acknowledge that Pauline Chan did forward the email that you sent and all the requests, and so we are working on that. We are, making sure that has information and those questions have gone over to DCAS, and that they will get a response for you. So it just acknowledged. Please forgive us if it takes a little bit of time. We just want to make sure we do our due diligence and can respond appropriately.
Okay,
We've heard you.
Answer too.
Yeah, there you go. I won't use any colorful metaphors quite yet. Okay, what else? Lauren, you said if there's an incident that you're going to reply to this community board. That sounds wonderful, but an incident means that me as a person living nearby and a tenant in the building, what does that mean? An incident means I'm dead? What does it mean? My office, my staff? That's horrifying. What Eric said is horrifying. What you said is horrifying for me. And I'm not sure if that's a question, but I just wanted to note that that's just horrifying. So you're giving me sleepless nights. Last but not least, I heard that there was a Chung Pak meeting with Charlie. I should have been invited to that. Let's keep me and the rest of the community engaged. I'm an attorney. I do represent some of the other businesses that are surrounding Chung Pak. We should all be invited to every single meeting, and it shouldn't be happening once a year. It should be happening all the time. Guys, please, let's get to work on this.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I'll keep the community board informed of more as it comes along. Thank you all.
Come to our meeting, keep coming to the meetings. Thank you. Anyone else, Lucian?
Yes. Next
How many
is
more
Bill
people?
Bielowski.
How many more?
Just 2 people left,
Okay.
counting Bill Bielowski.
8:04.
So you can go ahead and unmute yourself. You're unmuted. You can go. Yep.
Can you hear me? I want
Yes,
to thank
we can.
everybody, the community board and our council member for really representing us so well, and all of my other community members. I couldn't be more proud of you and how eloquent you've been to bring to light and help bring to light how incredibly we find ourselves at this moment where we're following some really narrow-minded thinking to execute this plan, and we are taking out all this embodied energy that's already there. But with that said, I have 3 questions. Well, 2 questions really. One's for Gramercy. How many cubic yards are you removing from this site? You couldn't have bid on it if you didn't, so it'd be nice to hear that. And from DDC, it would be nice to be able to administer for excellence to go with this project. And I think that we should not have to foil to get vibration and air monitoring reports. Would be nice to hear that they're going to come out to us as frequently as you get them, to some representative of our group. That's all. Thank you.
We will be making public the air monitoring and vibration monitoring reports, so you will not need to foil those.
And cubic yardage, I don't have it at my desk in front of me. I obviously have the information from when I did the project, but it's not a number that I have memorized, so I'd have to send that over to get back to you.
Are you finished, or did I miss something?
Bill, are you finished?
Oh, yes. No, it would be nice to know that I live on Walker Street. I'm a local architect. That sort of represents the truck volume. And what Eric said about idling, as a local community member, I'd like the community board, please, this was the 3rd thing for you guys, please push for a much later start and no convoy parking anywhere in our neighborhood whatsoever. Those trucks will become rattling at 6 a.m., 5 a.m., down Walker Street, out of the canal, out of the Holland Tunnel, downshift when they hit Broadway, because they're going to hit the light at Walker, and everybody who lives in that neighborhood is going to be sorry those trucks are coming. So thank you for pursuing that.
You're welcome. Okay, it's getting late. I see Gerald has his hand up, and Alice,
Yeah.
was your hand
Well,
up? Did you have another question?
also, one last.
It is, I had just
Um,
3 questions.
Okay,
yes.
hold on.
Jonathan Hollander is the last member of the public with their
Okay,
hand
so
up.
Jonathan, if you can, make
Yeah.
it quick, and then Gerald, and then Alice, you'll finish.
You can
When
proceed,
you
Jonathan.
spoke, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I had just one additional question. I thought I heard Richard say that trucks that were actually, or an equipment that was involved in the work would be placed on White Street, meaning what is now the pedestrian area between Center and Baxter. Is that the case, that really all of the vehicles are going to be in that small corridor and nowhere else? Or did I mishear that?
No, that's correct. White Street will be where all materials are loaded and unloaded.
Okay, so if we see vehicles that are outside of that area, then they should be reported.
Yes, I mean, you can, I guess you would take that to the community liaison who would reply it back to me. In terms of trucking, it would be on White Street. Like I said, the one exception to that is the construction of the Sally Port. There may be a truck or two unloading at various times for materials brought to that section of the site.
But everybody's hearing this, that all of the working vehicles that are, at work at that time are going to be in that small corridor and nowhere else. I just find it hard.
Not only are we hearing it, it's also the meeting is being recorded, so it's recorded.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for coming. Come again, please. Gerald?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. I just have a quick, short question here. So, Joseph, I understand you said you didn't know how many cubic tons of any of the stuff was being removed, but perhaps you know where it's going. Where is this demolished building going to be placed? What's the sustainability plan here?
So we are in the process of putting together our construction waste plan. That plan will detail all the different materials and where they end up. But we are recycling over 90% by weight of this facility. It all will be tracked and recycled. The buildings are made up of concrete and steel, so those are highly recyclable materials.
And that's a report that you can come back and give to us also?
I don't know where that report, how it gets to you. I don't know.
I mean, can you present it at the meeting once it's figured out where the materials are going? You gotta understand, this committee, we're a bunch of geeks.
Yes, we can share that report.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks, Jeff.
That's
And
it, Gerald?
Looking forward to it.
I just want to add that documentation actually feeds into the new construction LEED Gold certification. So whatever Gramercy is doing with regard to trucking of these debris and materials and recycling has to be documented as paperwork that then is given to the facility design builder that will kind of go toward the LEED Gold certification.
That's really great, Mercy. I'd also like to add, going forward with the RFP, which, as I understand, we've requested, there's a FOIL out on it, but we haven't received it yet. I would just like to ask moving forward that a full decarbonization plan is also made presentable to the community board for the new building.
Understood. And I understand the frustration with the FOIL process, but with the RFP, there's a lot of sensitive information with regard to how, the Department of Corrections operates. So that's why, and thus the FOIL process. So I just hope, just want to clarify that.
Understood. Thank you.
Thanks, Mercy. Thanks, Gerald.
Well,
So Alice, take us home, please.
Yeah, that's a helpful lead in, Mercy. I'm not sure I understand that. Are we getting the RFP and are you redacting some of it, or how is it going to be received? And is there a delay because of the nature of the request?
I think that's being handled by the legal division that handles FOIL, but my understanding is that it has to go through FOIL because of that reason.
Okay, well, I guess what won't need to be foiled is what we are understanding, just to sort of summarize. The construction waste plan will be reviewed, the remedial action plan, the construction health plan will all be provided. Would we be able to get the demolition plans that are submitted to the DOB? Or do we have to foil for that?
Sorry, I was coughing. I believe that's part of, yes, the next round of plans that Gramercy is putting together. The demolition plan, right, the traffic plan. We will come back and present those to the community board.
Great. Could you tell us when, 2 more questions. Could you tell us when the PDC meeting for the Sallyport will be happening? Or do you know?
That is on the February 14th.
Oh, I thought it was February 7th.
Oh, wait, sorry. No, that is for the artwork. So for the Sallyport, the PDC presentation, I think it's in March.
Thank you. And lastly, could you tell us the cost, and maybe you don't have it on the tip of your tongue here, but maybe you do, the cost of the demolition for this project, estimated more or less?
I think it's 125 million. But Rich, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's correct.
So it's 125 million for the demolition. Okay. And just lastly, a big thank you, particularly to Chris Marte, councilman, who, you know, had we had you in office earlier, this meeting wouldn't have been taking place. But I really want to thank you so much for, you know, your support for our community and for everybody else here. Thanks. Okay.
Thanks, Alice. Christopher, before you leave, we just want to get you to introduce us to Chloe. So, okay, we're going to bring this topic to a close. I'd like to thank everybody from DDC and everybody from Gramercy for coming, answering the questions. And, you know, we appreciate all the answers. As you can see, though, the committee, the public, we're all very interested in this project. There are questions that people have asked that you need to come back to us with some answers. And we, you know, again, want to stress how we are very, very concerned about the environmental and possibly medical impacts that this demolition can have upon our community. And we're already suffering, and it's 20 years later, and we're still suffering from the impacts of 9/11. So again, thank you. Have a good night. And we will see you at a meeting soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for putting us on the agenda, letting us come out tonight. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
Christopher
Thank you, DDC team.
and Gramercy team. Thank you, Christopher, for coming. We appreciate it. Mhm.
One last thing. Everyone who's in this meeting, please consider reaching out to Pauline, the CCL. If you send her an email, she'll add your email to her list. You will get updates exactly when we get the updates. It's really important that you do so. It's how you will be informed, and you reach out directly to Pauline. And as with all the other DDC projects, please consider CCing me if you feel it's a very deep issue, and that way the community board can also be informed, and we can also follow up if it's something that you've identified that is fixable and that you'd like to see fixed. You know, it is our job to maximize quality of life and minimize service delivery issues. So with that, and I can keep Pat appraised in the committee as well.
Let me just say,
So what is that email?
I can put that email in the chat for everyone. So everyone, please, you know, keep your eyeballs on the chat. I'll have that email in there, and then everyone should email Pauline immediately, so you're added to the list.
Pauline, hi, are you here?
I see it right there. Here it is.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, Pauline, we can hear you. Can we see you? Are you able to put on your...
Yes, let me start. I start before. Can you see me?
Nope, not yet. Where are
Yep,
you?
I start my video.
Oh, there
Hi,
you
how
are.
are you?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice
So
to
everybody
meet you, Pat.
everybody sees you, and everybody knows that Pauline is the person you're going to contact. She's the community liaison. You're the person that she's the person you're going to contact. If you have questions, if you need to do some outreach. And Pauline, thanks for all that you do.
Thank you, Pat. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I hope we'll see you at some future meetings.
Yep.
And just a word to everyone. You know, everyone works better when we see the issue. Almost everybody has a smartphone nowadays. If you see an issue, take a picture, take a video, and then include that in the message with the description of the issue. That helps all of us address and fix issues a much more expedited and complete way. And so I urge you all to communicate as much as you feel you need to with Pauline and me, myself, but also include pictures or any other sort of media whenever possible.
Great. Again, thanks, Pauline, for attending. We will see you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks. So now back to Christopher. Hi. I see
Hi.
Chloe is next to you, and on my computer, Chloe's in the box next to you. Hi, Chloe. We want to meet you and say hi and welcome. Christopher, what do you want to introduce Chloe?
Yeah, I'm really excited for Chloe. I've known her for almost a year. She volunteered on the campaign a bit, but she was raised in Lower Manhattan, so she knows the community well, and we're just so happy to have her on board. She will not only be our community board 1 liaison, but also our scheduler and be planning our special events like our town halls, bigger community gatherings. So you know who you go to. If you have any questions, if you want to schedule a meeting, you can go to her, and I'm sure she could handle any question that you may
You'll
have.
become our new best friend, Chloe.
Thanks. Chloe, would you share your email as well, please, in the
I was
chat?
gonna say, yep. Sure. Yeah, I can share my email in the chat, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone on CB1.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you both for coming tonight.
And we'll do a more formal introduction at next week's full board meeting, give our contacts, our temporary office location until we build out our permanent office location. And but we'll see everyone on there soon.
Fantastic. Thank you. We thank you both. So I don't know if you're going to stay on. If you stay on, great. If you're going to go, have a great night, and thank you again. We're going to talk about World Trade Center number 5 and affordability next. So I am going to turn the meeting over to Mariama James, who is the co-chair, and to Jill Goodkind, who have worked on a reso, and take it away.
Hi, thank you, Pat. I will allow Jill to start everything off with the reso.
Lucian, is it possible to put the reso up, please? Lucian?
Absolutely. I'll start putting that up there. You go ahead and get started. I just want to mention to all the members of the public and members of the committee that the draft resolution is available on the live.mcb1.nyc, the open meetings portal. There's a link. We always endeavor to have our draft resolutions available for everyone to review as soon as we have them, as soon as is practicable. Per the guidelines that were given to us by the governor. So this is no different. So please, when I put this up on the screen, if it's hard for you to see, the draft as submitted is there. That may be easier for you to see on your computer or phone. So I just want to have that out there for you. Now it'll take me a minute because I'm going to change everybody who's currently working on the doc to the editing privileges, so it's not a suggestion. So you all can edit as well as we do this. Jill, Justine, Mariama, Pat, not just me, because I'll have I'll be running the meeting, so it's a little difficult. So anyway, that being said, let me get that set up and I'll let you go.
I just saw the date. If I've got the right document, I saw the date and changed it, so you might want to accept that if that's right.
Thank you, Lucian. So while Lucian's getting ready to put that up, I'll give you a little background on why we're doing the second resolution on affordability. The first one was really very quick and just...
Can we see you, please? Do you mind?
Only if my laptop camera starts working miraculously, so I apologize for that. And anyway, I'm wearing the same sweatshirt for about 4 days now. So the last reso was very brief, and it was just coming out basically in support of 100% affordability. What this resolution addresses is really the questions people raised that they left out. What do we mean by affordability? You know, it's a mix. You'll see we talk about ranging from deep affordability through moderate and middle. We're talking about a socio and economically diverse building. That is what we're asking for. So if it would be easiest if I maybe just go through this. So we're doing this to supplement that very short one that we'd already put out. And the real issue, well, there's many, but one of the real issues behind this is since 9/11, there's been a lot of money, billions of dollars in different subsidies that have come into building in this community. And basically almost all of the housing in this area has been market rate. It's been luxury housing. I think we weren't able to find an example of any LMDC created affordable housing whatsoever. One of the issues with these subsidies were that at first there was no affordability required. Then the city came in and said 5%, but they allowed the developers to build that 5% in the outer boroughs where it's much less expensive to build, so they could get more luxury units in our area, and we lost out on that affordability. So that compounded with the fact that market rates, all this luxury housing has boosted the cost of living in this area, and then it's compounded by the fact that we've lost so much, thousands and thousands of units of what we had as affordable housing. Some of it was low income. Some of it was simply just rent stabilized, so it was moderate or middle income. You know, Gateway Plaza at that point was a rent stabilized building. It was based on rent stabilized, and it went market, and there's a little carve out for 600 units, and that's going to disappear in a couple of years. Independence Plaza, 3 39-story buildings, a lot of low-income tenants there, and that went market rate. Southbridge Towers, which was Mitchell-Lama, became a market rate co-op. There's another example with Tribeca Point. So no need to go through every single one, but you can see the compounding effects of losing our affordability and all this new housing just being luxury. If you could scroll up a little bit, please, Lucian. So the people most impacted by this loss are the people who came back here after 9/11, the people who were here even before 9/11, who knocked on the doors to build our schools. It's the people who moved here in their 30s and they're now senior citizens, speaking for myself, but we're the folks, a lot of other folks who are here and built this area, and we can't afford to live here anymore. In Gateway, once this semi-regulated rent, it's not all that regulated, runs out, I'm not going to be able to live in this community. It's a problem. And we have so many people right now who are suffering from 9/11 related illnesses. They came back, they built this community, and they're not going to be able to afford to stay here. So there's also another issue, and you know, on a personal note, when I was talking to my hairdresser down the block, you know, he said to me, you know, it's not what I pay my employees, you know, it's not the minimum wage or increasing the salaries as much as it is they can't afford to live in a decent place where they can commute to my job. He said, that's the problem. That's really hurting businesses. And if you're familiar with Real Estate Board of New York, they are not a tenant-friendly group, okay? At least to the best of my knowledge, I believe that they really kind of side with the landlords. So they just had a study come out this past month that they sponsored, which said that there's a shortage by 2030. The city's going to need another 500,000 units of housing. So there's a desperate shortage. But one of the things that really stuck with me in this report, and I'll quote, it's in the reso, without affordable housing located within and approximate to job centers, critical workers suffer from high rents and longer commutes and residents suffer higher costs for important services. We're talking about the healthcare workers and our teachers, the folks that work in the shops. We're not talking about the high corner office jobs, but people who really run our community, our city, and these are services we rely on, and they can't afford to live near where they work, and it hurts us all. Lucian, if you could scroll down a little, please. So one thing we keep hearing is that, well, we can't build a 100% affordable building because it's just too expensive. It's not sustainable. We have to make 1,000 units of luxury housing to support this building. But from what we can see, LMDC, who is building or owns this site or runs this site, 5 World Trade Center, is in charge of this RFP, hasn't done a deep dive into funding mechanisms that have worked for other affordable buildings. And I put a couple of examples into the reso. And one thing is called project-based Section 8 funding. And I do say this shouldn't be confused with Section 8 voucher programs, because to be frank, I know people hear, oh, Section 8, and they get concerned. Section 8 project-based is something very different. And people in these buildings, they pay rent, and landlords are made whole. And one example, which I think you might all know, is Manhattan Plaza in Hell's Kitchen. It's almost 1,700 units, and they're all affordable, and it's mixed income, and it's been extremely successful. It's made the community vibrant. It helped for the turnaround in that community in terms of residential and small business. And so it's sustainable, it's financially solid, it's mixed income. And what we really want is that mixed income so that you get the vibrancy. So there are, a lot of different ways to do this. There's congressional appropriations. There's a certain bond, and you can combine these. You can combine a little Section 8 with some of the bonds and some congressional appropriation. It's a matter really of will in taking the time and digging down and not looking at one thing. It's certainly easier to just have a big developer come in and put up a giant glassy rounded cornered building, but there are ways to make this 100% affordable, and they haven't been explored. If you kindly scroll down, Lucian, please. So let's see. So there's also another issue here, and it's really important, and that is all this luxury housing that's come into our area has really changed the socioeconomic nature of where we live. And it's become a lot more wealthy, a lot more segregated. There's a big lack of diversity. And one thing that, this is my observation, I don't know that I can prove this at the moment, but one thing I've just noticed is that the people who have affordable homes, they don't run, leave their rentals when COVID hits, like we saw happen in this city and in this area. During 9/11, we came back because we're rooted in this community. And so there's a lot of arguments here about how a mixed income, affordable building stabilizes this neighborhood, and it keeps us going. And this is people who are committed and come back, and they don't run, the second New York isn't like a postcard, or whatever movie they saw last about New York City. The other, another point is that World Trade Center is a very unique site, right? We've been through, horrors after the attack, and we are suffering, so many of us. And one thing you'll see is the Port Authority and LMDC, they spent billions of dollars to make a beautiful transit hub, the Oculus, whether you like it or not. It's their argument is that this is a special site. The eyes of the world are on this site. And so all the subsidies, the millions and billions of dollars of subsidies that have gone into all the other buildings on this World Trade Center campus, when it comes to the one residential building, all of a sudden it's like, oh, no, no, we couldn't have a single subsidy for that building, just only for the commercial buildings. And that doesn't really ring true. Also, I find it's, when LNDC says, for instance, well, we can give you 25% affordability and it's free. We're not getting any subsidies. However, the developer is getting huge tax breaks, and I'm not quite sure how that's not a subsidy. So there's a lot of arguments here that I think we need to address, and we do so in this resolution. Another issue is, we've built this community, and it is a beautiful community, and we have wonderful schools, and we have beautiful parks. We have a waterfront. There's great, access to transportation. But these things weren't just meant for renters who can come in and afford $7,000 for a one-bedroom or whatever the market rate is. These really should be for all of us, for everyone to use. And as this community becomes less and less diverse, that's going away. That's not happening. It's not public amenities just for wealthy people. Another issue that we have in this reso is that LMDC has said that they're having a vote on modifying their general plan so that the building could be residential as opposed to commercial. But also in there, which hasn't gotten as much light, to be kind, is that they want to make mandatory design requirements. They call them guidelines, but they would be mandatory. That the building, for instance, rather than having square corners, normal corners, they have to be all glass and they have to be rounded. And this is extremely expensive. And so by making that a requirement, they take away the ability to add more and make this 100% affordable. And even for people who just want to see more affordable housing, this kind of design element really makes that less likely. So I'm going to turn this over to Mariama, who's going to address some of the other issues that we've put here in the reso. Mariama?
And I'm sorry, just before you turn it over, I just want to say that it is 8:34. I don't want to rush this, but I'd like to see us end the meeting by 9 if we can. So I don't know how you two want to handle it, but keep that in mind, okay?
Okay. Well, Mariama, do you want to address some of the other items in this?
It's okay. You can continue to go through, and then if people have questions about the particulars of
okay, all right.
Socioeconomic ramifications, I'm happy to answer those questions.
Okay, okay, yeah. So just to re-emphasize, this community board, it's a discussion we've had. It's a discussion we should have as ongoing. Is to really identify and root out what is systemic racism in our community. And when you look about this building, and I'm going to ask Mariam to sort of address sort of the 1965 civil rights issues involved with this. Am I able to move this? Can you move somewhere up to that, Lucian? Anyway, just off. So when you're going to put 1,000 units, right? It's a 1,300 unit building. They've committed to a minimum 300 units, which is nothing. So you're talking about 1,000 units of housing for very, in my opinion, wealthy people. I kind of think someone who can spend 7,000 or whatever on a one bedroom qualifies as that. You're really, really adding to, it becomes, it takes away from the integration, the diversity, the racial diversity, the economic diversity, and it's under the rubric of oh well, we need to put this very expensive housing here so we can afford this building. But I think if you look at deeper into that argument, it's hard, at least from my perspective, not to see there's some systemic racism in that argument, right? So any let's see, did I do okay with that in terms of really addressing sort of the socioeconomic issues? And can we scroll down a little bit?
I have a question. Is everybody able to kind of read this? Can they see it? Are people having a hard time seeing it?
I can't read it, but I'm on my phone, so I don't know if that's just particular to me.
Okay. All right. So I'll go as quickly as I can. I know you want me to go quickly, but
No. What
sure.
I'm trying to say is that if people can't read it, they're they're following what you're saying, but they're having a hard time. Oop.
I'd recommend anyone who's using their phone or a tablet to sign on. If you have a computer available, you can check out the document as a PDF on live.ncb1.nyc. So you could use your computer to look at that because it's not part of the WebEx meeting. You can have both.
Under what
I can put that into the chat.
link files, Lucian?
Yeah.
Sorry if I could interrupt. Miriam, it's the same document that we were working on. So if you go back to our same document, it's shared. It's the same one we were working on earlier today.
Not everyone has access to it.
No, but
Yes.
Lucian then shared it.
And
So
I
he
worked on it over the phone with you guys because I couldn't even open it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to run through this quickly, and then we can get to questions. I'm sure there
but
are
I'm
some.
sorry. So it's going into the chat, Lucian? So that we can open it?
I'm gonna put the link to the live meetings portal in the chat, and if you look, there's under the name of the meeting, there's a link that says draft resolution. So if you click on that, you'll see the draft resolution.
Okay. All right. Just going through this. So this community has really made clear over a long period of time that affordable housing was a #1 priority for us with buildings. And it's important to note that 5 World Trade Center is public land. It was purchased with public government funds, with HUD funds, and that we do believe that this should be used as public land for the benefit of the public. We've said that more luxury housing is going to lead to less housing diversity. Currently, there's 1,140 newly built luxury condominiums and I guess rentals remaining unsold and unoccupied in this area. That's just since December 15th. And there's a drastic surplus of market rate and unaffordable homes. There's no need for this. If you could scroll up a little more, please. So there's no need and there is no desire in this community for these 1,000 units of luxury apartments. So we are asking, next page, please. Lucian, if you could, thank you. Okay, so what we're saying, okay, so our statement is basically that the current plan LMDC has, which only, it doesn't guarantee anything more than 25% of those 1,300 units to be affordable. It does not meet the needs of our community. It doesn't meet the needs of the greater New York community. And the 1,000 units of market rate housing are going to further what we already have is huge existing gaps in both racial and economic diversity in our area. And so what we are asking is that the LMDC explore all the options and create a residential plan that includes 100% of the units as affordable. And that includes a range of affordability from deepest through moderate and middle income. And that it provides for a socially and economically integrated community, and that the building be financially sustainable. And importantly, we want this plan to reflect equity, inclusion, access, and genuinely affordable housing that's consistent with and representative of the diversity of the 9/11 community, of our community, and the city that we've helped to revive after 9/11. And I and my colleagues will answer any questions.
I'm looking to see if anybody has their hands raised.
I'm trying to raise my hands, but I'll wait if somebody else already does.
No, I don't see any hands raised, so go ahead, if that's okay. If I could just take it since I'm looking at it. Go
Well,
ahead.
first of all, I mean, it's wonderful that you're continuing the work that your husband was doing from our original committee on housing. So thank you, Jill.
Thank
And I would love for it to be 100% affordable in an ideal world. I just wanted to, I'm glad you brought the attention of the Manhattan Plaza, because that's one of the few things in this world that I'm an expert on, as I was one of the original tenants there.
Oh.
But the difference is that was just based on like where a lot of you see the affordable like 80-20 buildings where you have to make, say, between 20 and 30,000 or 35 and 40,000 or 90 to 100,000 to qualify. That wasn't the case with Manhattan Plaza. As long as you were a member of the arts community, at least for the affordable part, whatever your income was, it was 25%. So that's how they got a range. So if you made 50,000, you paid 25%. If you made 20,000, it was 25%. It became 30% either during or after the Reagan years. So like I said, I can't read everything that you did because I'm on my phone, but if I was hearing like a 30% kind of barometer, and I would like to suggest putting it at 25%, at least as a starting point. And then, do you know if it would be like where you said different income ranges, as opposed to just like with the Manhattan Plaza, it wasn't like that. It was everybody that applied, whatever their income was, they paid the percentage of their income, as opposed to like having to qualify for a certain range. So if you can maybe address that first, Joe.
Okay, well,
I'd like to give one response to that.
Yeah, and then me too. Go ahead, Mariama.
Actually, some of Manhattan Plaza was project-based Section 8. A member of our steering committee, Carol Lamberg, was actually partners with the fabulous Susan Cole of this board, and they are who came up with the funding mechanisms for that building. And so we know for a fact, because we have the same woman working on this project now, that a portion of the rents were based on project-based Section 8 and other funding mechanisms that she's suggesting for this project. So not everybody came in under the same parameters as you did.
Right, right. But what I'm saying is that you didn't have to, like everybody that I knew from the original tenants, it wasn't like you had to fit a certain income range.
But,
they had.
So Mitch, to answer your question, what we're asking for, and Lucian, if you scroll down to the chart, which of course no one's going to see if they don't have a computer, this gives you an idea of what is affordable, affordable housing according to the Housing Connect chart for 2021. And what we're asking for is low, moderate, and middle income folks. And we're also asking for 9/11 survivors, their children, and seniors. So there is a range. We're not saying 100% at, Section 8.
No, great.
We're asking for a range, which is addressing what you're saying.
And let me just try to quickly answer. I think that's it's wonderful, and I understand what you're saying. And at this point, we are not determining which mechanisms would be used. We're asking them to dig into it, and they hopefully can come back and say that yes, we can do X, where a certain percentage, but we are not making that call right now. But I hear and I understand what you're saying. And I hope it's something that is one of the ways that this is explored to be done.
The other thing I wanted to say,
to clarify though, only 70% of the tenants were from the performing arts. So there were a group of.
I know that they had a few fair market rates.
And they weren't fair market rate. That's what I'm saying. There were other funding mechanisms. You can Google it, but
I'm telling you, there was some fair
market. The woman that designed it.
Mariana, I'm telling you, there were some fair market tenants there, and they did favors for certain people. No matter what Susan says to anybody, I mean, she's a wonderful person, but I'm telling you for a fact that that's not guesswork, me speculating.
That's not even what I was responding to. I thought you were saying that everybody was an artist and you paid 25% of your. No, that's incorrect.
There was carve-outs for other things, but I'm saying that the artists that moved there, it wasn't like if you fit into this income range or this income range. It was that whatever your income was, is you paid 25% of that for your rent, as opposed to how like these things are doing now, which I actually think is a way. But so because I was hearing people.
Anyway, what you're asking now.
30%
of one's income is a federal guguideline.
I think we're jumping the gun a little too.
I understand what he's asking now. He's talking about the 30%, but that's actually a federal guideline. That's not something that we came up with. Right. 30% of one's income is expected to be used for their rent.
Right,
And
it
now I
changed
know
the-
what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. It should be 25%. It shouldn't be 30. 30 is a lot.
Right, right. And just to let it, so you might know this, Mariana, but Manhattan Plaza was not originally intended to be a building like this. It was a market rate building that they couldn't rent at market rates because the neighborhood was a war zone. And then in 1976, 1977, they decided that how can we get decent people that might be low income in that building, and one thing it did, like as Jill said, that's the main thing that revitalized that neighborhood.
There's actually a beautiful story online about the owner that he didn't grow up rich, and so he wanted to.
The only thing is that the people
he wanted to make it possible for all these various
the
incomes
people
to
that
live
grew
there.
up in that neighborhood, which is what's happening now, which what Jill was saying before, the people that grew up in that neighborhood, like my children, can't afford to live in that neighborhood now.
And that's what's happening here. That's what we're trying to correct.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Victoria has her hand up. Victoria Fariello. If we could move her over or allow her to unmute.
I'm just gonna pull up a different window on my side. Give me 1 second. Victoria, you can unmute now.
Victoria, you can unmute yourself. There you go.
Hello?
Yep, we hear you.
Great. So, first of all, thank you so much for this. I think it's a great resolution, and I know so much heart and work went into this. So I'm Victoria Fraiello. I'm a district leader downtown. I want to also point out that we won't have an opportunity like this again downtown. This is a site that is open, that can be developed, and can actually provide what we need. And we're not going to have this opportunity again. So it would be an incredible shame to not take this opportunity and pass this resolution, which I think addresses all the needs that we have downtown and why this is so crucial. So I wanted to say, let's please, I hope you vote. I don't have any comments. I think it's really well written, and I so appreciate all the work you went into it. But I think it's critically important that we build 100% affordable building here. And I hear the questions and the concerns, but these are all things that we can address once we've committed to doing this. So we need to get the Lower Manhattan Development Corporation to commit to actually, as Jill was saying, explore these different mechanisms that we can use to make this 100% affordable. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Victoria. I'll add that 71 of her colleagues, as all the other district leaders in Manhattan, the entire county, have also signed on in support of this project. Bob Sneck.
Okay, I just want to make one comment that I think might be an appropriate addition to this resolution, and that is before I moved to New York, energy and vibrance were kind of what I expected to be here. And so what I think should come of this new building is real energy and vibrance. And we should really try to do something that in the face of the world is not only affordable, which is one problem we need to solve, but we need to solve the build back better and build back astoundingly kind of challenge. And so I would like this building to really represent something new in community planning, so people look at it and say, wow, those guys in New York really are on top of this. So that's one point I'd like to make, and I'd like to at least have that kind of sense of energy mentioned in the resolution. The other thing is that I really was a member of the original housing committee, and I like to think of myself, and I think in some humble way, I was a friend of Tom Goodkind, and I loved him, and for that reason, I have to take this idea forward. He always believed that a big piece of this ought to have something to do with the artistic community. He always loved Westbeth, and it was something that whenever I would walk by that part of the city, I'd kind of bow to Westbeth as something that is really needed. We have that astounding PAC, that Performing Arts Center just down the block here. We have to revitalize this city and this community. Part of building back better is to build parts of the community that really have strengths and use this as a place to root an artistic community. I think that's really, really, really important. And I think we have a chance to do something remarkable that way. And I think that no one else seems to be talking about things like this, but I would like to see that kind of energy come into this so that we really kind of build something for the future and build a heart into the community, not just apartments for people of whatever income class. So that's my comment.
Thank you for those kind words, Bob.
I think Gerald has his hands up. And maybe he could be, since we're getting close to 9, maybe Gerald is the last question.
Hi, thanks. I was actually finalizing this, but that's a great lead in for what my comments are, Bob. So I appreciate that. I'll try to keep it brief. The only argument that I've heard thus far against affordable housing on this site is that the building needs luxury income to fund its ongoing maintenance. I'd like to challenge the applicants, the community, and the city at large for producing a state-of-the-art building that can produce its own energy, not just for itself, but also for its immediate neighbors. 30% production of energy would pay for the building within 15 to 20 years, if not sooner, and it would take care of ongoing maintenance. A net positive building will pay for affordable housing at 130 Liberty Street. As Jill said, the eyes of the world are on this site. I think it's extremely important. And finally, a state-of-the-art building in 2022 of this size and on public property must support itself and the immediate community ethically, financially, and environmentally. Thank you.
And I'll say we agree 1,000%, Gerald. That's actually,
yeah.
We've been talking to a number of architects. Citigroup put out a call to architects, and we had over 100 respond that they were on a meeting simultaneous to this board's land use meeting last week, and with all kinds of ideas. And at least one has come in with hope to getting as close to net zero as possible, and expecting that in order to do that, the building would have to be cut down to about 66 floors, but they really mapped out the whole way that it could be done, the number of studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms that could fit if we did this. They've really figured it out. So there's a lot of people that want to see this happen, and that a lot of people who say that there are ways to do it, including, like I said, the people who made Manhattan Plaza happen, and that building has been functioning since 1977 and continues.
I'm just going to jump in for a minute. Mariama and Jill, do you want to take Gerald's language and add to the reso?
I think I'm doing it now. I'm trying to.
Right.
Okay, I just want to make one clarification, please, and that is, we're not talking about net zero. We're talking about net positive. We're talking about a structure that it's actually creating, generating.
Yes, I agree with you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. And forgive me, I don't mean to be instructive either in this regard. It's it's something that I'm very much been getting my head around recently. And the bottom line is the sheer amount of waste that these structures produce on a regular basis, that waste can be harnessed. And without getting into details, our buildings can be producing energy, not just to take care of themselves first and foremost, but then also to give back to the immediate community.
So Gerald, help me out. The building could be built to net positive standards, which will
financial,
which will cut the cost, right? I mean, cut the cost of sustaining the building.
Which could mitigate the cost of sustaining the building and maintaining the building, as well as producing income for
go slower.
Ongoing maintenance.
I'm going to jump in again. Gerald, I'm going to jump in. Gerald, can you type up your language and send it
Sure.
so that
give me a date. Give me a deadline. Yes, I'll do that this evening.
Tomorrow, not tonight. Tomorrow.
All right.
And Pat, can I just ask, isn't because the subsidies that come from the government, so the building, they get the full amount of the rent, whether the tenant pays 30%, the government pays 70%, but the full amount of the rent is given to the building's owners, so that shouldn't make a difference.
Thank you, Mitch.
Correct.
Thank you. I really
Thank you,
wanted
Mitch,
to
yeah.
address that, and I'm very glad that
Nobody's
Mitch raised
losing
that.
one cent.
It's-
If there's billionaires or thousandaires or hundredaires that live in the building, because they're getting 100% of the rent, of the market rate rent, it doesn't make a difference where it's coming from.
Yeah, and I have to say that I feel that this argument that I have been hearing that, oh, if it's 100% affordable, you know, which with a mix of incomes, it's going to not be able to maintain itself and become dilapidated and become an eyesore. And we have experience. We've pointed to buildings in Manhattan currently. That's not the case. As Mitch had pointed out, these subsidies, these government subsidies, are meant for that not to happen. I feel, and I'm sorry to say this, that sometimes it feels like an undercurrent of racism. And I think that speaks to the little bit to the systemic racism, because I don't think it's intentional that people think that affordability means that it can't be maintained and you can own, you know, it's just not the case. And I thank you, Mitch, for raising that point.
You're welcome.
So I hate to jump in again. It's 2 minutes to 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're finishing.
I'm trying to send the thing to, well, whatever, I'll do it by email. But you're right, Pat. Maybe we call a question, somebody?
Well, is there, you know, do you have any more questions from any committee members?
I don't see any.
Not that I see.
All the questions.
I have to say, you guys have done a great job on this reso.
Thanks.
And so we're gonna call the question has been called. Somebody want to second it?
Yes.
Thank you. So could we vote?
Then the other thing is for everyone to remember that when you're voting on it with, you heard some of Gerald's friendly amendment that's going to be included, so that's going to be included.
So I typed something. He's gonna fix it.
Yeah, he's gonna.
Anybody who can see it, and I'll try to email it to you, Gerald, so you can fix it.
Okay, perfect, Justine, and I'll email it back. Thank you.
Fantastic. So I think we're ready to vote, right? So Mariama, take it away.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Yeah, how about go the other way around? Anybody
Aye.
against and abstain and whatever, maybe.
Right, any
Yeah,
no?
let me just make sure.
Oh, yes.
It's been a while since I looked at the vote sheet because I've been managing the meeting. I want to make sure I have everybody. Betty's been in the attendee. There's Elizabeth Lewinson. Okay.
Oh, where is
there's a couple people who are in the attendee section. Just want to make sure that they have an opportunity to speak because I don't know how long they've been in the attendee section.
Oh, don't go running away. I have something I just want to say.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let me just go through really. So
Are we halting the vote? What's happening?
I was just going to go through and do a roll call if that's okay with everyone, just to make sure I have all the attendance right.
Okay.
More?
I see a hand raised in it.
Yeah, I don't see any hands raised.
Marianne Braverman from the public has her hand raised.
Oh.
Well, could we vote and then ask Marianne, or I guess that's not the right way to vote.
I'll be very quick.
So I guess we can let her speak. I'm sorry, Marianne.
That's fine. I'll be real quick on the question of encouraging artistic people to live in the building and give it that vibrancy. I have also been very concerned about minimum wage workers, to be sure that they also get access, because of the many, many minimum wage workers who come into our homes, who care for our kids and our elders, the stores, the restaurants. They commute hours to get here, and that's not kidding. So
those are the people we're trying to address.
thank you. I thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Enough from me.
And there is a whereas in there where we talk about.
Appreciate it, Miriam.
Yes. We talk specifically about that, which we call as critical workers and those are healthcare aides and you know, school aides. So thank you.
Grocery store workers. You're spot on. And I think that would also address.
Or actually, we're doing a roll call.
Okay. Moore?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Kuchia?
Yes.
Curtis?
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Roman,
Roman, yes.
Kay,
Hey, no.
Kettering, Lewinson, Mullen,
Present.
uh,
Vote. Are you
Oh,
gonna vote?
yes.
abstain,
Wait, is
or
that Michelle? Hold on. By the way, everybody, this is our new board member and our new committee member, Michelle.
Hi. Hi,
Michelle.
everyone.
So,
Nice to
Michelle,
meet you
when
guys.
we're taking a vote, you say your name, your
Yes.
last name, and how you vote.
Okay, Mullen, yes.
okay. Schneck,
Schneck votes yes.
Sung. All right, and going to our public members. Good kind.
Good kind votes yes.
Stein.
Stein votes yes.
Okay. The motion carries.
Did I hear Francis?
Do we yes, Francis? Yeah.
Yes, you heard.
Yes.
Okay. So it carries. Thank you for all the hard work. Lucia.
Thank you. Thank you guys for listening and participating.
Rosa, I love it when you come. Thank you. Where's Detta? I saw Detta was here. Michelle, turn your camera back on for a minute. So, how did you enjoy your first quality of life meeting?
It was good. It was nice to hear everything and to see the presentations. And I've been really interested in the borough-based jails discussion. So it was really nice to learn more and see more what's happening, you know, kind of, I guess, not behind the scenes.
I
But
want you to know that this committee is terrible. Everybody on here is horrible. They're all horrible. You know?
We don't talk too much. How's that?
Well, thank you for welcoming me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sorry we can't welcome you in person, but hopefully one of these days we'll get back to being able to do that.
Fingers crossed.
She's put a heart up. I see she's got a heart up. So everybody, Lucian, as always, thank you for all your hard work. Mariama, Jill, Justine, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
I want this committee and all of the visitors to the committee, you ask such smart questions. I am so happy to be a part of this committee. Remember, I'm just the facilitator. I am not the dictator. So again, for next month, if you have any other topics that you'd like to bring to the committee, please send an email out to us. Mariama, you have anything else you want to add as co-chair?
No, I think you got it all covered.
Pat, didn't we like a while ago? I mean, it almost sounds. I'm almost embarrassed to say, but we had brought up something about the increasing level of dog poop that we see on the street, and I don't know if I don't know if anything could be done, but
Not just dog.
Well, that's Department of Sanitation. When let's dog
poop in general.
Not just dog poop.
Not just
well,
dog.
maybe we'll get to, I have a question for the Department of Sanitation, so maybe we'll try to get them in. I had kind of briefly mentioned it. I have a huge television that I can't get rid of, and I don't know what to do with because I cannot take this huge TV, to be e-cycled, and I need to know what the Department of Sanitation says it's illegal to put them out. So anyway, maybe we'll get the Department of Sanitation in for next month to ask just very and sundry questions that we all have. And you can ask your poop question if that would make you happy.
And and when we talk about the bicycle things, I hope that we can make it not like non-riders versus riders, because we just
remember the Betty topic. So Betty, are you there? Take it to Transportation Committee.
Oh, truthfully, there's a different vibe over there than over here. There seems to be a more diverse over here.
Yeah, but it's still and we had Christopher and we have Chloe still on. So, Chloe, like we've all, this bike thing we said earlier is, a big thing in our community. So we like to have
I see a bicyclist and there's nobody there go through a red light, I don't care. That's not the spirit I'm talking about. But then when there's like an e-bike delivery guy going 20 miles, 15, 20 miles an hour the wrong way up the street as I turn the corner, that's what I care about.
Mitch, on the sidewalk.
Right.
On the sidewalk.
I wanted, by the way, Gerald, I wanted to thank you. Great questions. Thank you.
If we can make that differentiation, so that there's not like any tension between the bicyclists that bicyclists just doing their thing, going to work, whatever, and then like the other things, that we're talking about, which is a danger to everybody.
Yep, we got it. It's an ongoing topic, both in transportation and in quality of life. We will continue. The other
We
thing
have a joint meet. Could there be a joint meeting or something where
you might be able to do that? We'll talk. The other thing that's come up, and this is a Mimi topic as well as other people, is public bathrooms. She's our public bathroom advocate. And so Tammy sent out a email a couple of days ago. We have to get together and talk to Community Board 5 and see if we can do something jointly about pushing for public bathrooms.
That would
right,
be
Mimi?
very helpful, because I've been talking about that at every meeting, because yes, it makes me so offended to hear people saying about pooping on the streets, because nobody's doing that because they want to.
The bathroom.
It's a Jewish organization back in 2020 when we first started advocating for bathrooms and during Occupy City Hall, that wanted to donate bathrooms.
I remember that.
Attempted to donate bathrooms.
What happened?
They were turned away.
The city said no.
Yeah. City wouldn't let them.
That was
Well,
ridiculous.
we don't want to start the conversation tonight. We'll continue. We can put it on our agenda for
Maybe we can look them up and see if they're still interested or something. Yeah.
I have
What
a
was
friend
that?
that wrote a paper for their master's, I believe, on the bathroom situation in New York. So I'm going to talk to them this weekend and see if I can get a copy for all of us, and also see if they can come in and talk to everybody.
Use them by Brian Park.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we all know the Bryant Park one is the best one. They have fresh flowers every day and an attendant,
Oh, wow.
Lovely. Lovely.
We need that downtown.
It's attended outside, not inside, so nobody has to hand you toilet paper.
I like that. That's right. You talked about that someplace, Mitch.
On the slide deck that we got, it says they serve like 1.2 million people a year.
Wow.
That's
Can you
like
imagine?
more people
can
than
break into that
go to
market.
Atlanta Hartsfield.
We should break into that market, because what a nice thing we'd be doing.
Mimi,
Yeah, I'd
let's go
love
on.
for no lines for a bathroom. If there's no lines for a bathroom, then everybody's happy.
So we turn off the
Michelle, this is the
recording.
least glamorous part of the committee.
Yeah, right.
I do hope the recording's off at this point.
No, it's
Oh no, it's on. You guys are still meeting. Did we stop this meeting? You guys are discussing more business, so it's a public meeting.
All right, so end the meeting. Thank
Perfect.
you. Official
Welcome to
feedback.
the public.
Now we can talk about any kind of poop and pee you want to talk about, which is fine. But
1.2 million people. That's a